Good evening and welcome commissioners, participants, and interested parties to the March 7th, 2024 meeting of the Cohasset Conservation Commission. The meeting is now open. I'm Tom Bell, Chair of the Cohasset Conservation Commission, and will be running tonight's meeting as we implement the Massachusetts and Cohasset's Wetland Protection Acts and the Cohasset Stormwater Management Regulations. The Conservation Commission meeting is now in session and is being held on a Zoom platform. If you have any questions for the Commission, put them in the Q&A section at the bottom of the page, and when called, please limit your discussion to 3 minutes. You must include your name and address to be recognized. Present this evening on behalf of the Conservation Commission are our Conservation Administrator Angela Giso and Town Conservation Agent Charlotte Pechtel. I'll now take a roll call of the Conservation Commissioners. Please respond by repeating your name and saying present. Will Ashton, not present, I guess, right? Okay. Kathy Berrigan.
Kathy Berrigan, present.
Chris McFarland.
Chris McFarland, present.
Chris McIntyre.
Chris McIntyre, present.
Sanji Fernando.
Oh, you're muted, Sanji.
Sanji Fernando, present.
Valerio Romano.
Valerio Romano, present.
And it does not look like we have our associate Paul Lazorczak. So we have a quorum of 5, I believe. 6, counting me.
6.
Tom Bell present. 6. Here we go. Now we have 6. I needed to say present. Okay. So before proceeding to the public hearing, the following items are continued until January. That's wrong. Till April 4th. NOI 2328, 31 Bow Street. Show cause hearing for NOI 2213, stormwater permit 2210, 44 Little Harbor. That's also to April 4th. And certificates of compliance, stormwater permit 1915, 149 King Street. That's continued to March 21st. And NOI 2217, 22 Atlantic Avenue is continued to April 18th.
Then we also have NOI 24-01 and stormwater permit 24-01 and a show cause hearing for 26 Lamberts Lane and then 26 through 32 Lamberts Lane that has been continued to March 21st.
Thank you, Charlotte. Okay, our first public hearing is RDA 2403, 390 Atlantic Avenue. This is about a retaining wall. So in accordance with Massachusetts General Laws, Chapter 131, Section 40, the Cohasset Wetlands Bylaw and the Cohasset Stormwater Bylaw, the Cohasset Conservation Commission will hold a public hearing on Thursday, March 7th, 2024 at 6:30 p.m. via remote participation on the Zoom platform for RDA 24-3 at 390 Atlantic Avenue. Public hearing is now open. Take it away, Charlotte. You're muted.
We do have the applicant, John Shaw here. John, you're muted. I can pull up your plan. Would you like to walk us through the plan? And if you don't have sound, feel free to use the chat feature and I can, help you out.
There we go.
Hello.
Yeah. It's, can you hear me?
Yep. So I can, I'm pulling up your plan right now.
Oh, okay.
So everyone should be able to see it.
So it's, I would say a simple plan. It's just got a retaining wall so that we can have a little bit of a grass area behind the house. And it entered the 100-foot zone. So I figured that we probably need to go talk to you guys and make sure we're okay with that. There's a lot of stone walls that were built many years ago. We bought this property and put a house on it. Stone walls were built many years ago, and we're just basically sort of matching up with some of that. Any questions?
And you also have a row of native plants labeled on the plan that'll go within the wall. And it looks like there is a tree, but you're not taking that down. You're just kind of continuing a wall into the 100-foot buffer a little bit. And then it looks like you've shown a cross section here, less than 4 feet in height for the wall.
Yep. And my wife loves trees, so there's no trees getting removed. I love trees too.
Commissioners, comments, questions?
Charlotte, what is this the buffer to?
This is a bordering vegetative wetland. You can't see it on this here. We can pull up like the full existing conditions plan from, I can't remember the date, but it's much further down here on the plan below this garden area.
And when you say you can pull up the whole plan, was this part of a bigger project or just this project?
No, this was a markup of a previously submitted plan, like for when the home was constructed. So this is a markup of the plan of that document, just because it has all the, it had the buffer zone and everything on here. So I requested that, Sean and his team just kind of mark this up for the RDA submission to kind of show where the wall is going. And the location of where the wall will go is marked on the site right now. So I do have photos of that. But I can, just for reference, I can show the existing conditions plan from an old permit that we just used to submit the RDA for. Yeah, this is the original here. So this was looks like from a 2014 NOI. So this is the bordering vegetative wetland limit here further down on the yard, and then the 50-foot buffer here, and then the 100-foot buffer. And maybe this is a stormwater permit since it looks like the work was outside of the 100.
That's correct.
Oh, okay. Awesome. Thank you, John.
So this wall is right at the very top end, like on the 19 line, where you can see sort of 18, 19 line.
This is a fairly small encroachment in the 100.
Mhm.
It's
And-
about 15 feet. I mean, it doesn't go into it by 15 feet, but that's about the length of the wall area that sort of is in it's that curve down the bottom of the wall, if you see on the picture.
And do you have a native plant list that you're going to put in here?
Basically, my wife's going to put a bunch of native plants. The one we have right now is bayberry, quite a lot.
Any further questions from the
Did
commission?
you say it was part of a continuation of an old existing wall?
But all you see the stone walls on the retaining walls that were there, they were built probably 50 years ago.
Were they just stone, or did they
They're
use
stone. They're all stone.
did they use mortar or just
I
stone?
would say they used a mix of stone and water. There's a lot of ledge there, and so it was mixed in with the ledge.
So it looks to me like there's some stepping stones that, oh, I see, they're already on there. Okay, so I'm just orienting myself. So you're going to build it over the top of existing lawn, is that correct?
Correct. Lawn and ledge.
Further comments for the commission? Nope. So does anyone care to make a motion either to positive or a negative determination here?
Charlotte, this would just be a -2 determination unless without any conditions, is that right?
Since it's just in the buffer zone, it would be a -3, but with a -3, you can either you can put conditions or not put conditions, and then it would be a -6 that you don't need any, you don't need an NOI under the bylaw either, so -3 and -6, if you were to propose a negative determination here.
So I see very little disturbance of the buffer zone. It's certainly at the limit of the 100-foot buffer, and the commission tends to accept this type of limited impact. So I'd like to make a motion to issue a -3 and -6 determination so that no NOI is required.
Do I have a second?
I
Berrigan,
have a
second.
question. And I have a question.
Yeah.
It'll come with
Sure.
their standard plant list, right? I think they're planning for plant lists, native plants, but it would come with their standard plant list, right? Charlotte?
You could make it a condition here, like we have a template for orders of conditions, but for an RDA, if you wanted to do a -3 and a -6 with the condition to select from our lists, you can put that as a condition for a -3.
Then I'll amend my motion to issue a -3, -6 with the condition that the plant material will be taken from the Cohasset Conservation Commission plant list.
So we need a new second since it's been amended.
Second,
With that, we'll proceed to a roll call vote. Kathy Berrigan,
Kathy Berrigan, aye.
Chris McFarland,
Chris McFarland, aye.
Chris McIntyre,
Chris McIntyre, aye.
Sanjay Fernando,
Sanjay Fernando, aye.
Valeria Romano,
Valerio Romano, I.
Tom Bell, aye. That passes 6-0-0.
All right, thank you, John.
Thank you. Appreciate it.
Welcome.
Thank you. Have a great night.
Thank you.
Okay, next is a public hearing for NOI 24-2, Stormwater Permit 24-2, 35 Nichols Road. Subject is construction of a pool, patio, and cabana. In accordance with Massachusetts General Laws, Chapter 131, Section 40 of the Cohasset Wetlands Bylaw and the Cohasset Stormwater Bylaw, the Cohasset Conservation Commission will hold a public meeting on Thursday, March 7, 2024 at 6:30 p.m. via remote participation on a Zoom platform for NOI 2402, Stormwater Permit 2402 at 94 Black Horse Lane. The public hearing is now open.
Wait, wasn't this Nichols Road?
No,
Oh, wait,
yeah, sorry, 35 Nichols Road.
Tom, 243 North Main Street is actually second on the agenda. Sorry, I didn't stop you because I was I was looking for the applicant in the
No.
audience.
You know what? It's okay, that's fine. So let me do this again then. I must have missed that when I was making my script here, and that is not continued. Okay, so this public hearing is for Stormwater Permit 24-4, 243 North Main Street. It's an existing two-family, one-family home. This is going to be for a new studio dwelling. So in accordance with Massachusetts General Law, Chapter 131, Section 40, the Cohasset Wetlands Bylaw and the Cohasset Stormwater Bylaw, the Cohasset Conservation Commission will hold a public hearing on Thursday, March 7th, 2024 at 6:30 p.m. via remote participation on a Zoom platform for Stormwater Permit 24-4 at 234 North Main Street. The public hearing is now open.
Hi, Jeff. I can't see the applicant in the audience unless they want to raise their hand, so.
Okay, I'm not sure if they're in attendance, but it's Diana Avini.
Yeah, I don't see her.
Okay.
Okay.
All right, good evening, everyone. Jeff Assett for the record with Morse Engineering. We filed a stormwater permit for the property at 243 North Main Street, and I'll bring up that plan. Okay, so North Main Street is at the top of the page. The property is currently developed with a two-family home located here, and they have their driveway is located here. The property slopes from the front, from North Main Street, towards the back or the bottom of the page, to the rear of the property, and there are no wetlands on the property, so this is a stormwater permit only. The proposed work is that they're proposing a one-bedroom studio. It's a 1.5-story structure at the back of the property. It's 29.5 feet wide, deep by 41.5 feet wide. And the associated work with that is extending the driveway. It'll be a paved driveway located here. Putting in a new septic system located here that'll service both the existing home and the studio. And also stormwater controls. For stormwater controls, we're proposing a crushed stone trench going down the entire side of the driveway with a 4-inch perforated pipe in it. And that will discharge into a grass depression located here. In addition to that, all the roof runoff is going to a roof drywall system here, made up of 15 infiltrator high-capacity chambers. So to show you some details for that, the crushed stone trench is 3 feet wide by 2 feet deep. That's going to promote infiltration, but it also has a 4-inch perforated pipe that will carry the water back to the shallow grass depression. It's about 1 foot deep. It's basically creating a berm in that area to hold back and store the water on site, also promoting groundwater recharge and infiltration in that area. And the roof drywall system, it's made up of plastic chambers, backfilled in crushed stone and wrapped in filter fabric. And there'll be a mulch stock around the down gradient limit of work. So the intent of those controls, stormwater controls, is to show that this project will not increase the rates or volume of runoff, and that is what the calculations show. And for that, to that point, that is why we feel this project can be issued a stormwater permit. Thank you.
Commissioners,
Jeff, why are you calling it a grass depression versus a rain garden?
We're not proposing plantings in the bottom of it. It would just be a 3-to-1 grading on either side, 1 foot deep grass depression that they would mow.
Okay. And how many trees are being removed for this?
2, 3, 4, 5, 6. There's 7 trees proposed to be removed, the one shown in red. There's also 2 trees that we're saying to be determined. There's an 18-inch tree just to the side of the driveway that they would like to keep, but realistically they are excavating very close to it to put that trench in. So it may or may not survive. And then there's a 36-inch tree that they would like to keep as well. But it is within close proximity to the septic. The type of septic we're installing is a drip system though, and they only have to go down about 1 foot. So we're optimistic that one will make it.
And have you done a test pit out here for the for both the septic and for the roof runoff?
Yeah, we have done test pits. We have there are 5 test pits. There's 1, and there are 1, 2, 3, and there's 2. Another one under the leaching field here, and another one up here. And the septic has been approved by the Board of Health.
So you're not. Can you just give us a brief analysis of the test pits?
yeah, scroll up until we can see or down wherever the,
Yeah, I'm actually going to go to the detail for the roof drywall system.
okay.
So we did test pit 4, which is in the proximity of the roof drywall system. Based on test pit 4, groundwater is at elevation 36.1, and we're providing 2 feet of separation to the bottom of the drywall system, and that's what DEP recommends.
Could we see the result? There we go.
The log itself.
That's what I want to see.
Yep. So we dug down 42 inches and hit refusal, and that's where groundwater is. It's going to sit on the ledge.
Mm-hmm. Okay. Okay. Jeff, did you when you put that test pit in, did you think you were going to put the infiltration chamber in the, where you put the test pit in? I mean, ordinarily, you guys have been complying and putting the test pit in within the perimeter, I suppose. Hopefully the center of any of the structures that you need a test pit for. Why are these sort of out of phase?
Well, I mean, that test pit is touching, just barely, it's
no, I
touching the
see.
corner.
Yeah, I see that.
And when you go out there to dig a test pit with the excavator, you try to get, I don't know, we haven't designed it yet at that point. We don't have the design on paper yet.
I get,
So we
that's
did
what I
the
was
test pit
asking.
earlier on.
Yeah.
So I think they did pretty well, but
Okay, so you got plenty of clearance.
Yeah.
Okay. And your numbers work.
yes, they do. Yeah, it works out to be a 12% reduction in the rates on average and a 20% reduction in volumes.
Does
You didn't
does
put a
this
cap-
structure have a basement?
No, it doesn't.
Okay.
And so you're going to excavate this shallow grass depression, is that right?
Correct.
And so how come you didn't put a test pit there? What happens if you get bedrock?
It's the same thing. Do the test pits early, kind of as one of the first steps in the project to figure out what the soil is. And then we ended up having to put that grass depression in as well as the stone trench. So in that case, we're only digging down a foot there from 38 to 37. And then immediately adjacent is elevation 37. So I am comfortable with that. I don't think there'll be an issue.
Oh,
there.
I see. Okay. So in other words, the proposed one bedroom is built on fill. I mean, it looks like it goes from 41 to 37 here. Actually, top of foundation 42. So it, looks like it's 5 feet. The depression is 5 feet below the top of elevation or top of foundation for the one bedroom. I mean, what I don't see here is, oh, I see. Okay, so you're going to actually grade that level to elevation 42 feet. Is that right?
Correct.
Okay.
So
And
you're taking a cut on this side and then filling on this side to make that a level area.
okay. So it still gets back to my question here of why you didn't put in a test pit in the center of your grass depression. How do you know you're going to be able to get down to 37 feet? Oh, I see. You're at 36 feet right now. The original elevation is at 30. Is it
38.
38.
And then
So you only
and
had to
then
go
30
another foot is what you're saying.
Yeah, and then 37 right next to it.
Okay. All right.
So yeah, we did the test pits as one of the first steps in the project, and then we ended up adding this grass depression. So we
Yeah.
don't have a test pit there, but based on the results of the other test pits and just visual observations of that area, I am comfortable that you can dig down approximately 1 foot in that area.
But did you expect that this depression is going to serve as an infiltration device of sorts, right?
Yes. Yep.
So I know you don't have to have the requisite 2 feet here like you would if you had to put in a chamber. I don't think you do you?
You try to, yeah. Yeah.
So what's at 35 feet?
I have not done a test pit there, but I do feel comfortable with it if just based on field observations. But to your point, we have not done a test pit there in
Okay.
that exact location.
If it's really meant to be an infiltration structure rather than a pond, I'd like to see a test pit there. Give us some and stop working on speculation and kind of deal with real data. I mean, we have no. If you're wrong, then what, right? It's not going to infiltrate anything. It's going to turn into a pond.
Sure. Is it something that we could do as a condition and could be reviewed by Charlotte?
Yeah, I suppose it is. It could be.
Right.
But that, I'm just one vote here. So I suppose it's a little bit of a gamble here to just go ahead.
Well, I think, Tom, we could do it as a condition with the idea that if, you know, what's a reasonable amount of separation between the bottom of this, which let's call it, oh, it's 37 and ledge. So if ledge is within 18 inches, then.
Two feet's the number.
Yeah, 2 feet's the number.
2 feet's the
Oh,
number
two
recommended by
feet even
DEP.
for this? Okay, so.
It's
so
gotta
if-
have, it's
so-
gotta have room to infiltrate through the bottom and then move laterally.
Okay,
And
so,
if this bottoms out on bedrock, then it's not gonna work. It's gonna be a pond.
okay,
not-
so,
not
so
an
we could we could condition it that if they test that area and they hit ledge before they hit 35, then they'll have to come back to us.
Well, it's not about ledge so much as they need to be 2 feet above the water table.
It's both. We have to be 2 feet above both ledge and groundwater.
But your other test pits could give you a pretty good example of where the water table is, right?
Yes.
Which is where?
Down about 3 feet.
And
34?
Yep.
Okay. So,
30.
yeah, wait a minute. Scroll down to your test pit data here. So you see refusal at 35.5 and 36. 34. So it's entirely possible that you're going to be right. You're not going to have 2 feet of separation between your bedrock and the bottom of this pond or infiltration device. It'll be one or the other.
Yeah, I think it's going to be right around 2 feet. But if I'm wrong, there's room to pick that field up.
What's the closest pit that you guys did to this? What number?
Test pits 3 and 4.
Are the closest?
Yeah, and they're not right there. They're here.
Oh yeah, they're quite a ways away.
Yeah.
This is just.
They're-
So what do you do? What are you going to do, Jeff, if you dig this thing, you get down 18 inches and you hit bedrock? It's not going to work. Then what?
Well, let's say
That would call for a fairly significant change in your plan, and I'm
Yeah.
not comfortable that this would necessarily, if it called for a major overhaul of this large structure, I'm not comfortable with doing that administratively necessarily.
Okay. So my theory on it would be if it's conditioned that a test would have to be performed and reviewed by Charlotte. If based on that test bit we have to make any changes, if it's something really minor like picking up the field from 37 to 37.5, maybe she can improve that on her own. If it's a redesign, well then she'll probably send it back to you.
yeah.
As a non-administrative modification.
Okay, that sounds like a good solution to me.
So Tom, there is an abutter who she's unfortunately having access issues right now. I think her sister might be on the phone. Melissa, if you can hear us, if you want to try raising your hand, I can promote you to speak, or you're welcome to use the question and answer feature.
Address.
But
We need an address here.
oh yeah, so can you? Yeah, I don't know if she can hear us, but if she's willing to raise her hand, okay, let me see.
First and
Someone-
last name and address.
Yep. Let me see. Melissa, you are muted. Can you please provide us with your name and address for the record if you have questions? You are also muted.
Does that work?
Yes. Hello.
Hi, Charlotte. It's Pam.
Oh,
I'm
hi,
using-
Pam. Hello.
Good. I'm using my sister's computer. So I tried to get in on using my name and address, but it wouldn't go through. So we used Missy's computer. And it got in. You need my address?
Yes, please.
235 North Main Street.
Great. And Pam, did you had some questions for the project?
I have a few questions, yes. One would be if you could show the panel or the commission the pictures that I sent to you this morning and maybe share with them the ones that I gave you before.
Mm.
There's a tremendous amount of runoff, storm runoff. And I am extremely nervous. I mean, you literally see the water moving through my yard. Okay, so I am nervous about an additional structure going on the property. I'm nervous about a home adding a driveway where there never was one. They park on the town land in front of the house. And I think if I read the plans right, the bordering is maybe 285 feet. I don't know if the engineer Jeff could, take a look and see. They're proposing on putting a driveway almost half of that. And if you pave it, isn't there going to be additional runoff? And streaming through my property? If Charlotte, if you could just share the pictures and possibly have the commission come and walk the site, really. I mean, a lot of things look good on paper, but in actuality, it's going to be totally different. And who's going to maintain everything?
Sorry.
That's all water
I don't know if
underneath.
the video is gonna play. It's a little blurry, but let me try it.
I know it's horrible. That's all water underneath the trees that are planted in my driveway, running off that property. There's the puddle, one of the puddles, and it continues streaming down behind that apple tree. There's another pond. This is all runoff from last night. This is not an occasional problem. I've lived in the house for 36 years.
Jeff, have you walked in the backyard here? Not
Yeah.
at 235, for your clients. I'm just looking at it here, and I just wonder if this isn't if there isn't some wetland here.
No, there aren't any wetlands there. We actually submitted a letter from John Zimmer, South River Environmental. He reviewed the property and determined there weren't any wetlands. But this is the property here at 243 North Main.
Yeah.
And the neighboring property at 235.
Mhm.
The house is here. The driveway is going to come in here to a structure located here. And all the runoff from 243 North Main Street, it does go towards the side property line and then back, as does the runoff from 235 North Main. It kind of comes here and flows down this area. So I don't question that. Yeah, there's water running down that yard every time it rains. I'm sure it is. And as you're aware, under a stormwater permit, we have to show that we're not going to make that condition any worse. And there's really no way that we can resolve that issue. It's something that's been going on forever. But we can do the calculations and we can put in controls to hold back the stormwater runoff from our client's property to show that we're going to make that condition a little bit better. We're not going to make it worse, certainly. And that's why, there's great expense that goes with this. They're putting a 3-foot wide stone trench down the entire side of the driveway, putting in depressions, putting in a very large roof drywall system. That's all intended to get the water into the ground and let it and release it slowly or infiltrate it rather than letting it just run off when it downpours. So I understand the concern. That's why we do the stormwater permits. I do feel we've designed the system with that in mind.
I had a quick question, just to understand the context. The tree in question that we saw the video, where does that sit on 235's property, or roughly, like?
Do you want to bring that back up? I don't know exactly where that tree is.
Charlotte, can
Sorry.
you bring that image back up, please?
Yeah, I can pull up the photos, which might be a little bit
No,
better.
could you pull that image back up, please?
Okay. All right, yeah, I was gonna show these photos, but,
Yeah, Charlotte, I have that, the GIS
oh,
map.
okay, you're beating me to it. There you go.
Yeah, good. So yeah, it's pretty clear that flow is from the driveway at 235, but also the east side of 243 into that swale.
Are those the pictures we saw like from the butter? Is it in that bottom corner?
Yeah,
that's
so
it.
there's like sorry, I took photos too, so I was trying to show both of them. But yeah, so the photos and videos that she's taking, she's looking down the driveway along the row of arborvitae, and then below the row of arborvitae, there is a wet area that was suspected to be a wetland, but we, again, as Jeff said, John Zimmer went out to the site to evaluate it, and he said it definitely, although it was a wet area, was not a wetland, but it is in the lower area on the yard, and
Is
I
this-
believe it's where
Is
the
that the
driveway
area of
turnaround's gonna go.
arborvitae? Is that the area?
No, I think it's a little bit further up, right, Pam?
Yeah, it starts right at the initial area of the driveway.
Yeah, so further up there.
You've got over at least, I want to say a football field worth of water going through my yard.
You're not alone in this. Everybody's yard's flooded after last night's rain.
I know, mine happens frequently. This is not new.
Yeah,
Again, I've lived in the house for 36 years. Someone from my husband's family has lived there since it was built. It's an ongoing issue, and if they put an additional structure out there, I
so
have a feeling that I'm gonna have more problems.
Ms. Brown,
Printer gas, it's okay.
Oh, oh,
That's
yeah,
okay.
right. You're using your daughter's computer? or
My
something?
sisters.
Yeah, okay. So, I mean, our bylaw is structured so that the applicant cannot increase the runoff. They have to either match the runoff or reduce it. And the design of this system is built so that it captures, actually, it's going to probably capture more water than it does now. Jeff, how much did you guys reduce the runoff?
Yeah, so on average, the rates are reduced by 12% and the volumes by 20%.
Okay, so a 20% volume reduction is fairly substantial here. So it's as Mr. Hassett pointed out, not going to make anything worse. And it sounds like it's going to be an improvement, in fact, assuming that the system works as designed. And there is.
And the system is maintained.
Absolutely. And that's part of the conditions to grant this, that there be an ongoing maintenance plan that's the responsibility of the landholder. Whoever it is, it transfers with the land. So for example, if they sold this house, the new owner would still have to maintain that stormwater system. And Charlotte, am I wrong? Is it an annual report they have to submit?
It depends on the year, but the long-term operation and maintenance plan, as well as our regulations, will definitely, they do require inspections definitely for the first 3 years, and to maintain a log. And then Jeff, correct me if I'm wrong, I believe you do have a maintenance log in the long-term operation and maintenance plan. That plan will need to be recorded with the Registry of Deeds prior to the issuance of closing out this permit. And then as Chair said, the plan follows the property, so it does not end when somebody sells the property. It stays with the property, and it's the homeowner's responsibility to maintain these systems perpetually and to make sure that they are functioning. And but yes, that is the I don't know the exact number of inspections, but it is definitely at least once or twice a year.
I just wanted you to understand that the way our bylaw is structured, and in fact, I believe this derives from the state. Is that right, Charlotte?
Yeah, so for single family homes under normal circumstances, it normally does not apply. However, because we have a stormwater bylaw that does require compliance with the stormwater standards for, any permit that triggers our bylaw. So yes, it under, what is it, standard? Oh man, standard.
But Charlotte,
8,
you,
9.
I don't know.
Charlotte,
I
how could
forget
you
which one
fail
it
us
is.
like this? I thought you had
I'm
them
messing up
all
the numbers,
memorized.
but yes, it's part of the stormwater standards to answer your question. I know, I'm mixing up the numbers in my brain right now. Sorry.
But it is worth mentioning that our bylaws, Cohasset town bylaws are stricter than the state
Correct.
requirements.
Correct.
So I understand your concern. I mean, everybody in Cohasset is
Has the
particularly
same
after a
issue.
rainstorm like last night. They're all looking out, not everybody, but a lot of people, me included, are looking out at their backyards, and it's looking like ducks should be landing there. So these heavy storms do tend to do this, and this is pretty low-lying ground. So really the question is the applicant at 243 in compliance with our stricter than state bylaws? And it appears that they have reduced the runoff substantially. 20% is actually, we rarely see them this good, Jeff. Congratulations, because
Thank you.
we're talking about just a couple of percent reduction. So this one looks like it's a fairly robust system, at least in theory.
May I ask
Sure.
a question? Are the laws the same for a single family or a multifamily on the bylaws? This is a multifamily at 243. There's a studio apartment and a one-bedroom apartment at 243. Now she wants to turn the house into a one-bedroom house, but building out back. So is this a zoning issue or a planning board issue? More than just conservation?
Yeah,
Probably,
potential
probably
building-
both.
Building inspector issue. Our client has reviewed it with the building inspector, though. It's an existing two-family, and it's going to continue to be a two-family
See-
between two structures.
That's not a two-family.
It's really not a conservation issue, regardless.
Yeah, it's outside of our jurisdiction, so.
Jeff, could I ask you to go back to the site plan for a minute, please?
Mhm.
Why is it called a grass depression again? Why aren't you putting in a rain garden? I know Chris asked this already, but
I mean, it's essentially the same with the exception of instead of there being plants in the bottom, it's grass. So it's just mowed as part of the lawn. In this case, it's only 1 foot deep. It's 3-to-1 grading on either side. So it is mowable.
So there's a spillway at 37.5. So it's going to fill up 6 inches and then start discharging.
Right.
Is it feasible? Of course it is feasible, but would your applicant consider moving that depression farther down the lot and perhaps turning it into a rain garden so that it has even less impact on the neighbor?
I could talk to them about it.
I mean, you can
It would be a
follow
little-
that 37-foot contour down a ways and maybe put it in the middle of maybe where just below the acre lettering.
Yeah, I mean, it certainly could be moved back here. It's a little more tree clearing. But I don't see any reason you couldn't.
Yeah, there are some trees down there, so it's a trade-off here. You
It
know,
is a trade-off, yeah.
do we want to lose trees, which in fact are actually helping
I
with
know
that.
this isn't a,
In-
I
in
know this
this
isn't a wetlands
location-
permit, but the trees mostly on the site are Norway maples and some black cherries. Definitely infested with poison ivy, but yeah, if you walk back there where the proposed studio is going, it is a, you know, it's wooded. The trees that are surveyed on the plan are 12-inch or greater, but there's definitely, you know, smaller sapling trees around there, but they're mostly Norway maples from what I saw.
So you could move it down the slope a ways and maybe relieve some of the concerns of the neighbor that there was going to be increased runoff that's closer to structures on their property.
Yeah, I mean, it is downgrading of their structure. So it's not, there's no possibility of having.
Well, it's downgrading of their house, but there are other structures on their property. And I don't know that it's downgrading of those. Maybe it is. If you showed us the topographic map again, we might get some notion of whether that's true. I guess we're looking for a good neighbor solution here, Jeff.
Yeah.
You can see that.
It's going right in this general area.
Yeah, right.
It's discharging here.
Oh, I see. Yeah, I see what you.
Beyond, it's maybe in the back corner of their lawn. It's definitely downgrading of the grading of your structures.
Yeah, okay.
If we keep pushing it back, it's going to get closer to this neighbor.
Yeah, right.
So I kind of like it where it is. I mean,
Right. I get it.
and then it's more tree clearing in that area.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, it's a give and take. I'd rather discharge here and then go through a wooded area and back.
Well,
It's
so
just
it
discharge
looks like
right
what's
now.
really critical here is how well your most down gradient infiltration structure is. And so I'm more concerned than ever that actually you've got the appropriate clearance. I'm wondering if you could maybe make the spillway take it to 38. And
Well, the problem with that is that we're analyzing the 100-year storm event, which is 9 inches of rain in 24 hours.
yeah,
So if I raise that spillway, the basin's going to overtop the top of the basin when we get 9 inches of rain.
yeah.
Well,
So I'd have to make it deeper as well.
well,
Maybe you want.
Oh,
that.
oh, I see. Yeah, you're right. It's going to screw up your model.
Yeah, I can't have the basin overtop either. I get an error message. So
would there be any benefit to make it a rain garden to reduce spillage as opposed to making it mobile?
It doesn't matter. I mean, maybe the plants soak up a little more water than the grass does. It's negligible in my opinion.
Yeah.
There's also a trade-off with maintenance, I'll just say, for rain gardens. You know, a lot of people, unless they're really into it, tend to let the rain gardens go and they can become overgrown. So at least if it's more of a grass spillway, I mean, that's easier to maintain and mow. But yeah, as much as I love rain gardens and all that good stuff, I mean, the maintenance is definitely a long-term concern, realistically.
So
That's
so
just my opinion.
I think it's really kind of time to wrap this up. I think that the proposal that this be, I would be in favor of the proposal of administrative, and if you run into trouble there, Jeff, in terms of your clearance, then it pops right back into our lap and we'll
Okay. Thank
deal
you.
with a redesign if it's necessary. That's my feeling about it. I don't know how the other commissioners feel, but are there any further comments or questions to clarify this before we move to a motion?
Would anybody care to walk the site on the board? Come
I,
and
one, have
look
a
at this.
have a fairly good notion of, just from the photos and looking at the topography, what the issue is. But if there's other commissioners that would like to, if they feel that it would impact their decision about this, then speak up.
I don't know if a site visit would help me, because if the calculations are demonstrating that it's reducing and not increasing the stormwater, I don't know if I could visually, counter those calculations as opposed to like a wetland issue.
Yeah, and the test pits are are kind of the most important thing. So when they go to actually install the
Yeah.
infiltration systems, that's really the most important thing, I think.
I'm sorry, I didn't follow earlier. Have the test pits already been done?
Not at the site that is going to be the depression, and that's what we were talking
But there
about.
have been other site
Is
tests
that,
done
is
on the
that,
site?
is that we, at this point, it's supposition that there's, that this infiltration structure will work. And the solution that's being proposed is that they get their permit, but it's conditional upon putting in a test pit at that point and demonstrating to our agent, Charlotte Pechtel, that indeed they have sufficient clearance between bedrock and the bottom of their infiltration pit, if you will, to actually work, so that the water that ends up in that basin doesn't overflow and doesn't end up in their yard and yours, but instead it infiltrates into the ground and becomes groundwater, which at that point we've lost jurisdiction.
Traditionally,
yeah,
are they
I
marked
would-
on the
I would-
property?
I think the question was like, there have been test pits. The one exception is the depression, but maybe to answer your question, there were 5 other test pits done throughout the site, I
Okay.
think.
Are they marked somewhere on the site? Do you traditionally mark them?
They're on the plan.
Okay, I'll look at the plan again then. I don't see them marked on the property at all.
Jeff, maybe you can bring up your map again and just point out approximately where they are, or we can do that on an air photo. It might be better if you have that, but
Yeah, so we did 5 test pits. One is in the side yard here, and the other 4 are in the backyard. So that's a symbol for a test pit. We don't mark them on the property, but if you were to walk out there, you could probably still see where we dug them.
Well, I've only noticed 2, and I've been out there and stood at the top of their driveway. I definitely didn't see the one on the top left as you're coming in off the street. Those would have been directly behind 2 of the maple.
They
Yeah.
were dug. They were witnessed by the Board of Health.
Okay, all right. I think I would have noticed that was so close to the maple trees that have traditionally always been considered on my property. But it looks like from this more recent study that those maples are not on my property.
well, it looks like one is and one
Looks like
isn't.
one is and
Yeah.
one isn't. Yeah. So, Tom, I just want to make a point, and you've already alluded to it, that we are looking at surface runoff, and quite likely, when there's only 2 feet of separation before you hit bedrock, the water is going to, in a small storm, nothing's going to happen. In a rainstorm like we had yesterday and today, it's going to saturate the ground, it's going to run down to the bedrock, and then it's going to follow the bedrock and weep out of the slopes. And there's nothing that there, you know, as you said, at that point, it's not part of our jurisdiction. But it's the reality is, in a storm like this, they're not going to notice any difference whatsoever in the low-lying area adjacent to this property. The water's going to go down, it's going to hit rock, and it's going to slide into the low spot. That's what's going to happen. So I just think we don't have jurisdiction, as you said, once it's off the surface, and Mr. Hassett has done what he can to get it off the surface and into the ground. But during these very heavy storms, it's going to reveal itself, and that's something we just don't have jurisdiction on.
Yeah, it's a really tough problem because first of all, as the water flows down this trench, it's got a certain velocity, and when it is discharged into the basin and then reinfiltrates and goes into the natural soil, the velocity of that groundwater is orders of magnitude. In other words, let's call it a tenth or even 100th of the velocity that it's arriving in the basin. Because that soil, particularly the closer it is to bedrock, the less permeable it is. So the ability of that water that's being introduced at the bottom of the pit is pretty limited. 2 feet isn't very much, and the permeability of that soil is pretty low compared to at least the flow that's going to be coming down through a pretty permeable gravel trench. But again, the way the state and the town bylaws are set up, that's not something that's considered. So
Correct.
to some extent, the reality here is that you're right, Chris, that water is ultimately going to flow into that swale no matter what happens. One way or another, it's going to get there either by groundwater discharge or by overland flow, but it's already doing that.
Correct.
It's already doing that. So Jeff, I see you have a kind of a stippled pattern for the driveway. Is this going to be a shell driveway? We're not talking about pavement, are we?
No, it's a paved driveway.
It is a paved driveway.
Yes.
Isn't that going to create more runoff?
Well,
It-
yes.
That's why we have these stormwater controls.
Yeah.
I have a gravel driveway. And that's going to be a heck of a lot of pavement out there.
It is going to be pavement, but the stormwater control, the trench next to it is going to pick up the water. So, unfortunately, we're limited by what we have the jurisdiction over.
So one of the things that this is going to do is that, yes, the rainfall is going to be on the driveway. It's going to end up in the trench, and it's going to discharge, I don't have a scale here, but it looks like maybe 150 feet or 200 feet farther down the lot than it does now.
Yep.
So instead of being introduced at the top of the lot and flowing maybe across your driveway, it's actually going to be flow in a trench, a gravel-filled trench down to that pond, and be discharged farther away from your driveway and your house. So yes, we don't have a magic way of making the water go away during a rainstorm. Whatever falls there is going to either end up on the ground or it's going to flow across the ground. And so the change that you may see is, in fact, you see less runoff from your neighbor's side to your side because there's a gravel trench between the two of you. And that water then is going to get routed down to this pond or this
Depression.
trail. What should I be calling this, Jeff? It doesn't have
Grass depression.
a grass depression. Thank you. So it's going to flow to this grass depression. And at that point, it is going to enter the soil to some extent. It may overflow. I bet it would have last night since there's only 6 inches from the bottom. So it certainly would have overflowed last night. But it's not overflowing onto your driveway or anywhere near your house. It's going to be pretty far down the south end of your lot. So you may actually see an improvement, not necessarily because of a reduction in runoff, but because where that runoff actually is discharged onto your property. Does that make sense to you?
I'm listening.
Okay, good. Yeah.
Tom, just,
I'm trying to help you understand how.
I know
work.
you are. I know you are.
But I do need to remind you that, again, this project, the hydrologic analysis appears sound. and it conforms to state and local rules and regulations.
And based on that, Tom, I'd like to make a motion to,
Sorry, Chris, I was gonna say, before you guys make a motion, just one thing that Valerio had to jump off, so we have a quorum of 5. And then Paul, I'm sorry, Paul Lasorziak, our associate commissioner just joined. And then Chris, I did have some suggested conditions. One of them, of course, lists the required inspections, which hasn't made it into the permit template yet. But I did have a few others. I don't know if you guys want to see them real quick before you make a motion, or if you want to do your own thing. But I did add a condition to inspect a test pit with Jeff and with the appropriate contractor to just determine that you have the proper clearance. But I can pull those up if you guys want to see them.
Yeah, sure. Why don't you run them by us, Charlotte?
Yeah, I'll share my screen. I'll do that just so I don't read them and everyone goes to sleep. But so this is, again, this will eventually make it into the permit template, but right now it is not in there. So I did add an additional one for test pits. So there'll be a pre-construction visit looking at the test pits. And then, of course, for any of the other stormwater systems, I added before paving the driveway just to make sure it's in the right spot, and then before landscaping, and then final inspection. So these are the conditions I suggested. There may or may not be other boards that have to look at this. I don't know if zoning is a thing, so we'll confirm that with the building inspector. So that's why I just had this similar condition we've had for other stormwater permits. I don't know if you guys want this about tree protection guards, just to make sure that the limit of clearing is, any trees within the limit of work are protected.
Yes.
And then I added a test pit condition here. And then, of course, the required inspections. I don't know if anybody wants to revise this. I know it's difficult and will take a long time to read into the record, but I can send these to Angela and we can see them on the screen. So hopefully that suffices for everyone. Otherwise, I'll read them, but.
I just think the test pit inspection should happen when it's raining as hard as it was today.
Which is frequently, last
Do we
night
want to
was.
put that in there?
No,
an
I'm
unusual
kidding.
event.
No, okay. I was like, I can. It would just be difficult for me and Jeff.
These look good. I think these
Yeah.
are good. And then the only other condition would be if it is determined that there's not enough separation, that Jeff will come back to the commission with a revised plan.
Will you do everything you can to keep them from coming in and clear cutting?
Of
That,
course, yes, there's, I
okay,
mean,
I had
there will be-
promises when Quanahasa Trail went in, okay? I had
Mhm.
promises that they were gonna leave mature trees. And they only left the trees at the border, at the property lines. They went in and clear cut it.
well, they are.
And in the
they are-
hearings, they swore to me that that was not gonna happen.
So
that's-
one thing that I've specified in the pre-construction visit is that I will be reviewing the staked limit of work and any tree protection barriers that need to be installed. So before the work starts, Morse Engineering will go out and they will stake the limit of work. I'll look at erosion controls. Sometimes we determine if more may be needed. We may need some additional barriers depending on site conditions. And so that is a part of the pre-construction site visit, to just make sure that the appropriate limit of work is staked so that they don't clear more than what they're supposed to.
Okay,
But
thank you.
but let's make it clear. There are, Jeff, would you say 8 or 9 trees that are coming down?
Well, there's more than that, but just
Oh,
for
yeah.
our stormwater regs, it's our stormwater regs require 12-inch caliper or greater to be on the plans. So there are smaller trees that will be removed.
Well, yeah, well,
But let
Yeah,
alone the
pretty
clearing of the lot.
But
Well,
to
it's-
the limit of work is gonna be staked out by a surveyor, and then there'll be a barrier installed there, so, that marks the limit of the work. The contractor knows not to go beyond that.
Yeah.
And that gets inspected by Charlotte before they do any work.
okay.
So I think we need to move along here.
Yep.
Mhm.
Sorry. do you have-
So Tom, let me make the motion to issue a stormwater permit with the conditions as outlined by Charlotte including the condition that if the separation of the grass depression to bedrock is not. Oh, did you add that in already?
Yep.
Okay, so then that's already in there. So that's my motion.
Do I have a second?
Berrigan, second.
Thank you. With that, we'll have a roll call vote. Kathy Berrigan,
Kathy Berrigan, I.
Chris McFarland,
Chris McFarland, aye.
Sanjay Fernando,
Sanjay Fernando, aye.
Chris McIntyre,
Chris McIntyre, aye.
Tom Bell, aye. Vote passes. Let's see, we're 4 of us now, right?
Five.
Huh?
Five.
Oh, yeah, 500. There you go.
All right. Thank you, Jeff. And thank you, Pam. We appreciate your questions.
Thank
everyone.
you. Thank you for your patience.
Thanks.
Okay. So where are we at here? Now to Nicholas Road.
And I think, Tom, you already read the motion. So do you want to read it again or do you want to
Yeah,
just go?
No, I think I better read it again.
Okay.
So in accordance with Massachusetts General Laws, Chapter 131, Section 40, the Cohasset Wetland Bylaw, and the Cohasset Stormwater Bylaw, the Cohasset Conservation Commission will hold a public hearing on Thursday, March 7th, 2024 at 6:30 p.m. via remote participation on a Zoom platform for NOI 24-2 and Stormwater Permit 24-2 at 94 Black Horse Lane. The public hearing is now open.
All right, Jeff Acid here again. This is an NOI and a stormwater permit for a pool at 35 Nichols Road. The homeowners are
Oh,
Katie.
wait a minute. Did I get something wrong there? I said Black Horse Lane at the end. Let me revise
I'm
that.
sorry, Tom, I was muted.
Yeah,
Sorry.
I had so many things
All
to do
confused
today,
there.
and then I kept getting interrupted while I was writing my script, and I scrambled it, it looks like. So that should be, I'm going to repeat the final
Sorry.
sentence of this. Oh, it's all one sentence. I love paragraphs like this. In accordance with Massachusetts General Law, Chapter 131, Section 40, the Cohasset Wetland Bylaw and the Cohasset Stormwater Bylaw, the Cohasset Conservation Commission will hold a public hearing on Thursday, March 7th, 2024 at 6:30 p.m. via remote participation on Zoom platform for NOI 24-2, Stormwater Permit 24-2 for 35 Nichols Road. The public hearing is now open.
All right. All right, so joining me is Sean Pappas. She's the landscape architect for the property, and the applicant is Katie Frazier. The Fraziers bought this property in 2021. It's about a half acre in size. It's developed with a cape that was built in 1958. They have a primary gravel driveway as well as a paved driveway that doubles as a sport court. In the backyard, there's a large ledge outcrop. They have a paver patio and then lawn that extends to where my cursor is going now, and some evergreen plantings along the property line for screening. This property is entirely upland. There is an offsite wetland shown in blue with a 50-foot buffer in red and the 100-foot buffer in green. So the proposed work is entirely in the backyard within that area that's currently lawn. It includes a pool, which is 16 by 36 here, a small cabana. They have a pervious patio in this corner, and then stepping stones leading around to the cabana around the other 3 sides of the pool. And this property slopes, it's lawn, and it's about an 8% sloping off towards the top of the screen. We're proposing a 2-foot tall wall right here in order to level that area off. So it'll be a nice, perfect level area for the pool and patio and cabana area. As you can see, the work is slightly into the 100-foot buffer. We've only filed an NOI for this corner right here. We did try to reposition and maneuver the site to get out of the 100-foot buffer altogether, but it pushed it into the ledge over here, and it just wasn't viable. But we're well outside of the 50-foot buffer, and that wetland's on the other side of the neighbor's driveway. So this project will not have any adverse impact on the wetlands. As far as stormwater, currently the property slopes downhill and then back this way to a rain garden located right here. That's a low point, and I'm sure it has water in it right now. And I've learned from correspondence from the neighbor that does overtop and run across the neighbor's driveway and down to the wetland. You know, that's an existing scenario, just like we talked about on the last project. It's not the applicant's responsibility to contain all of the water on the site. That's naturally where it runs. But we provide the calculations to show that by doing this project, by converting that lawn into a swimming pool and a cabana and a level patio area, that it's not going to make that condition any worse. It's not going to result in more runoff going to there. And that's what we've done. So this area will now be perfectly level. That promotes infiltration. And the patio is our pervious. So they have joints in between the pavers, and then there's about 7 inches of crushed stone as a reservoir below. So that water, instead of running off the patio, it infiltrates. There are no trees to be removed as part of this project. The evergreens along the property line will remain. And then the plantings are specified by Sean. I'll briefly give you an overview. These are the existing evergreens to remain, proposing some additional ones in the back. The neighbor at 39, this is their driveway, and their house sits probably off the page here to the right. So the cabana is going to work as screening, as well as some additional tree plantings. There's also 49 shrubs and 179 perennials and ground covers. So it'll be a big improvement with respect to plantings. Access, there was, to be clear about the access is going to come over the applicant's property solely. So vehicles will come over that driveway sport court, and then across the patio and into the backyard. So they do have to remove that patio, which will be replaced in kind. And there are some trees and shrubs here that were planted a few years back, and they need to be transplanted and then, put back after. But there's more than enough room to come in through there. It's about 22 feet in width and level. So other than those obstructions and some added cost to redo the patio, it's adequate access. So this project, we feel it can be approved for the reasons I mentioned. No work in the 50-foot buffer, minimal work in the 100-foot buffer. We've provided the stormwater calculations, and there's a significant increase in plantings. I was out there a couple days ago and I took some pictures. So this is going to be the access. You can see there are two or three green giant arborvitaes here that will be temporarily removed, as well as an ornamental tree and a small wall. And then the patio will be temporarily removed as well. Looking from the other direction, this is standing in the back left corner of the house. Looking across at the patio, the vehicles will come right through here for access. Next picture is standing in about the same location in the back left corner of the house. Looking back, this is the area where the pool is going right here. There'll be a 2-foot wall on this side right in front of these evergreens to make that flat. And then this is a picture looking back the other direction. Again, these evergreens will remain. That low point in the site where all the runoff naturally goes is right here. So I hope that gives you a pretty good idea of the project. And with that, I'll pass it back to you. Unless Sean, do you want to add anything?
No, I think you kind of covered it, Jeff. I don't think I need to. I'm here for any questions.
Okay.
Thank you.
Commissioners,
Is the artificial turf pervious or like it's like?
It is, yes.
So Jeff, you mentioned that you couldn't shift the pool towards the outcrop there to the west. You could certainly rotate it, couldn't you? Rotate it out of the 100.
We'll make it smaller.
I mean, I know you approve pools in the 100-foot buffer all the time. I don't see how this would have an adverse impact.
You're the one that brought it up, that you considered moving it. So I thought, well, okay, you considered it. Why didn't you consider rotating it? Leave it in the same place, but rotating it.
Tom, we actually did consider it, but we also don't want to get into a situation where we're asking to remove ledge that is visible and is not for a habitable structure or a driveway. Or a garage. So we're also trying to be careful with that. ledge removal, land alteration.
Okay. I mean, I wouldn't have brought it up if you hadn't mentioned it, Jeff, that you considered something, and so, well, you considered it. Why didn't you consider rotation?
Yeah, no, that was it. That's part of it.
Okay. Any other questions?
Why does the cabana need to be where it is? I mean, why can't that shift down like 5 feet so it's out of buffer? It seems like it's the whole thing could just be smaller and wouldn't be in the buffer. I mean, I know Jeff said, you know, we've approved stuff in the past, but I don't know. It just seems like these corners are in there for no reason.
Well, no, I mean, one of the reasons is, you know, they want this cabana to be visible from the back windows of the house. This ledge outcrop and the grade comes up here, which would screen it. So you get a nice line of sight back to the cabana. If you moved it over into this corner, you wouldn't get that.
Why do they want to look at a cabana?
It'll be
What's going on back there?
looking cabana. That's why.
Okay.
So we did receive letters from abutters this week, and I'm just mentioning it for the record because they were submitted, you know, within the last couple days. And I just wanted to, you know, I forwarded them to the engineers and to the commission, and I just wanted to kind of make sure and see if the commission had any additional questions for those letters. We do have, I think, a lot of abutters for this project in the audience too. I'm sure they might have questions, but just first off, before, you know, there's any possible questions from the audience, does the commission have any comments? Or Jeff or Sean, do you have anything else to add in relation to the information received in those letters?
No, I don't have anything to add at this point.
Charlotte, can you comment on the tenor of the letters? Are they positive or negative, or what are their concerns?
So I'm happy to summarize, but
Yeah.
I know there may be people who would like to speak, so I don't want to 100% speak for them. But, you know, in speaking with the abutters, there are definitely concerns about the down gradient flooding impacts into the property. You know, as Jeff had mentioned, there's already existing drainage that goes across 39 Nichols. And I did go out today during a rainstorm to look at it. So I do have photos and videos of that. And I know, Jeff, as you mentioned, and as we've said with, you know, recent past here tonight, you know, you're not required to fix that. But, you know, again, you are under the stormwater bylaw. You know, we don't want to see any worsening of the existing conditions. So there are, you know, some existing drainage, you know, systems on the site. So just, I'm sure you saw that, and I didn't know if you had anything else to add in terms of whether or not this project will impact those. And then I know some of the comments in the letter were also related to, you know, not just the wetlands that are shown in the plan here, but there may or may not be some other wetlands that are not shown. So I didn't know if you had gone out and looked at it. But I believe that's kind of the summary, and I've already seen the hands are starting to be raised, so I don't know.
I think there's
Yeah,
also one
I mean,
question
as
about-
I mentioned before, this project isn't going to make that existing drainage issue any worse. And you know, we're showing all the wetlands that I'm aware of. I was just out here 2 days ago. I stood back in this corner right here and took that picture I showed you. I didn't notice any wetlands.
Jeff, there's a question of pool water equipment drainage and disposal. Like, I know
Yes.
folks have to, I think they're required not to, you know, remove their pool water into their yards. They have to get it professionally removed. But is there drainage off of that equipment or runoff from the equipment and operation of the pool?
Sean, are you aware of that? Would there be just water that comes out of the pool equipment?
So
that
the
we
only thing you would
add like a
have,
dry well for?
yeah, the only thing you would have on that, Sanjay, is you would have some seasonal down draw of the water, a percentage of water that comes out of the pool. Otherwise, you won't really have a tremendous amount of water coming off of a pool. It's like any other pool that you would have. And in that essence, you really are not supposed to drain onto any paving. You're not supposed to drain into a storm sewer, of course. Occasionally, we will drain it to a dry well. In some towns, we'll drain to a dry well. Other towns actually tell you to drain it onto your lawn so it infiltrates. The levels of chlorine are not what they used to be. We use UV to kill bacteria in trace amounts of chlorine to keep the algae away. So it's, some of the literature on it's a little bit outdated in terms of impacts of downdraw of water at the seasonal end.
And the
I do know
equipment itself doesn't
typically you've
like
included,
discharge.
sorry.
Was it?
The equipment itself doesn't discharge water out in its operation.
And, oh, sorry, go ahead, John.
Jeff, did you have anything else you were gonna mention?
Yeah.
No, I
do
just
know
wanted
that-
to, oh,
That
go ahead.
recently you've been, sorry, recently you've been including 2 pages of conditions for pools. And certainly our applicant, our client here would have to adhere to those standard conditions for pools.
Correct. Yeah, sorry. I was just quickly going to add that as part of an order of conditions, there is a standard pool and spa water best management practices condition. And it definitely is about, lowering all the chemical levels, making sure that, you're not draining it obviously into a wetland, river, stream, street, et cetera. And that we do want it to be preferably drained over existing landscaping so it has time to be treated essentially by going through vegetative cover before going somewhere else. But I think just to read the comment in the chat for the record, I'm sorry, just to make sure that we're answering all the questions here. Good evening, Charlotte. Mark Baker, 32 Nichols Road with brief question. I think this was answered well, just reconfirming no additional stormwater runoff down Nichols Road towards any of the homes down the hill, such as my home at 32 Nichols. Thank you.
So just for curiosity, what's the finish on the retaining wall?
On that retaining wall, we were discussing doing a low curve, what we were discussing doing. It's about 1.5 foot tall,
Oh, that's all?
almost more or less just a split granite.
Uh-huh, okay. And where's the equipment? Filtration equipment?
The pool equipment would be behind the cabana. So on the
Oh, right there. Okay, I see it. Okay. Okay.
And I'm so sorry, Jeff, just to confirm, there will be no additional stormwater runoff down Nichols Road.
Yeah, that's correct. I believe 32 is on this side of the road, and the runoff from this area goes to this location and then overflows that way to the wetland. So, this project area does not go that direction.
Thank you. And Mr. Chair, we do have a hand raised. Do we want to promote them to speak and obviously list their name and address for the record?
Yeah, yes, I think so. That's a good idea.
Okay. Hi, Matt. Sorry for the wait.
Hi, good evening. Matthew Connolly on behalf of Mary Claire Chase at 39 Nichols Road. We're the property that we keep talking about where all the water is going to run off to. We submitted some comments in a letter 2 days ago as well, but there are existing issues regarding drainage at this property. There are unpermitted drains that cause runoff from 2018 that already go above and under Nichols Road onto the wetland on our property. It does look like, based on the design that Jeff just showed, that there's going to be additional water that's going to run the exact same way. And so I don't know how that could comply with the town's existing standards or the DEP stormwater management standards. The other couple of points I wanted to make real quick were the wetland delineation that is shown here was something that my client had done in 2022, or the property owner had done. And I don't believe there's been a new delineation either for this property or for any of the other properties done by the neighbors. And I'll let them speak to that, but it's not a new delineation that's been done here. And then sort of the final point has to do with the chemicals from the pool. On a day like today, just like any pool, when the water overflows, the water has to go somewhere. And it looks like those chemical water is going to run down past Nichols Road and onto my client's property. These are pretty significant issues that need to be addressed. And we would request that you either not approve it or continue it until there's some better plans that show how those things are going to get resolved. So thank you.
Jeff, maybe you can address this. When in the normal maintenance here, would the water level of this pool be drawn down to account for winter precipitation so that there is no overflow?
That's exactly correct. In the fall, it will be drained to a lower level, so we're not over top in the winter. That delineation that was mentioned was done in November of 2022. Delineations are good for 2 years, so that line is still valid. And as I mentioned before, we did submit the calculations showing that this project will not increase the amount of runoff in that direction, or any direction for that matter. You know, it's a pretty simple project. You have a lawn area that has a slope to it, and we're going to make it level, and we're going to promote infiltration in that area. This is not a case like where you're clear cutting a wooded area and paving it. You know, it's a marginal increase in runoff that we have to hold back to begin with. So I really think that we've met the burden of proof on that.
And Jeff, just to quickly confirm, I think Mr. Connolly was also asking about delineations done on either this property and or any other abutting properties that are not shown here. Have any wetland delineations or investigations been looked at for this site and for at least for other sites, you know, with the necessary permissions? And there is someone raising their hand in the audience who I think can help answer that question, but I wanted to start with you first.
Yeah, sure. I mean, there's no other wetlands on this property. We're aware of the one offsite to the northeast. In walking this property and looking beyond the property line, I've never observed any wetlands. GIS doesn't show any wetlands within 100 feet. I don't have any reason to believe there's any other wetlands.
Okay. And then, Mr. Chair, we do have Brendan Sullivan in the audience. I think he can help answer this question as well, because I think he was asked to help investigate some areas that may or may not be wetlands. Do we want to promote him to speak too?
Yes.
Okay. All right. Hi, Brendan.
Good evening. Brendan Sullivan, for the record, from Merrill Engineers. So I've been contacted by the owners of 33 and 39 Nichols Road as well. I'm currently have John Zimmer going out to look at the property at 33 because the owner thinks or believes there could be some wetlands on that site as well. And as far as some of the drainage that's running off of 35 going on to 39, there are some direct discharge pipes, 4-inch PVC pipes. One of them, I believe, is a sump pump, which discharges pretty regularly within, if not on the property, within 10 feet of the property. So that's a condition that's, I know you say you're not making it any worse than it is, but you know, I think there's some attorneys involved that are, you know, investigating that trespass. And also, Jeff, I did get a quick glance at the HydroCAD as well. You may need to just look at the hydrographs. You may need to extend your time frame out a little more to maybe like 30 hours, because at 24 hours, there's still water coming out of the HydroCAD, the storm events. So you're not accounting for all of the runoff pre or post. It may not make a difference, but just something maybe to look at for the calculations if they're that close in pre.
Yeah, it usually does not make a big difference, but I hear the comment. I'll take a look at it.
Okay. Thank you.
Thank you, Brendan.
So Jeff, it sounds like the neighbors are on both sides are concerned. What can your client do to make this a little sweeter? You know, if they are,
what do you have in mind?
If they are draining their basement across the road here, that's not a good thing, right? So
yeah, well,
maybe
discharges in that back corner to that rain garden area I mentioned, and it apparently does overtop, which I certainly believe. You know, my client bought the property in 2021. That it's always been the same way. I've got to imagine this house has always had a sump pump daylighting to that area. It's in the water table. You know, it requires a sump pump in the.
It sounds like it might be a neighborly thing to do to address that.
Yeah, it's a tough site. There's no great solution, being that there is ledge. It's shallow to ledge. It's relatively flat.
It couldn't be routed so it discharges onto the lawn right there at the edge of the patio and infiltrated.
Over here?
Yeah.
I mean, it's just going to run back to the same spot. Yeah, I guess you would get some infiltration on the way.
Yeah. Maybe sometimes it's a gesture that's good enough.
Yeah, I suppose it could be surcharged away from the property line and let it run over the grass before getting to that location, sure.
You might
If-
suggest it.
If I could just make one point real quick, that drain came in, was installed in 2018, so it hasn't always been existing. It was part of a renovation that to expand the house in 2018. So this is a,
I'm sorry,
relatively-
who's speaking?
sorry, this is Matthew Connolly again.
Thank you.
And how do you know it was installed in 2018?
My client told me. And
Okay. I find it hard to believe this house didn't have a sump pump until 2018.
I don't know if it had a sump pump or not. I'm just saying that French drain was installed in 2018 and the flow was redirected this way in 2018. I don't know. My understanding is that the flow used to go in the other direction, up by where the water easement is now. And then it got redirected in 2018.
Yeah, and Matthew, I haven't, because I was out there just this morning, so I haven't gotten a chance to potentially investigate any previous permitting history. But when we looked at it, there are 3 pipes in that eastern area between 33 and 35, where that kind of indent is on the property border. And one of the pipes is coming up from the basement, and then 2 other pipes are downspouts that are connected from the what looks like a newer addition to the building, or a newer version of it is coming off from the roofs and connecting the roof leaders and gutters down underground into that same area where the other basement pipe is. So there's 3 pipes that are kind of all pointing in a general direction. We did look at it on site during the rain today, and it's definitely obviously ponding. The water's obviously going across the driveway and then going into where the wetland is. But yeah, I don't know the permitting history, and I don't know if there was a previous stormwater permit or not. Sounds like there may or may not have been. My predecessor, Jeff Summers, may have investigated this. I just don't have a record of that right now. So I just wanted to give you that information as well of what I learned today. But it seems like, obviously there's still concerns with some existing drainage here.
After a rainfall like yesterday, I'm sure that there's a lot of people in town that are looking at ponded water in their yards and looking uphill to see how much of it's coming off their neighbors' properties. And I mean, we live in a landscape where there's limited ability to put this water back underground. I mean, we're sitting on top of granite for the most part. And so this is a challenge for everybody in town, or not everybody. There are parts of towns that do infiltrate. They're sitting on glacial fill, but for properties like this and many others, this is an ongoing problem and the source of disputes between neighbors. I'm well aware of that. So again, I would wonder, Jeff, if your client would think about rationalizing their own discharge of water to kind of ease the friction in the neighborhood about this.
I'm sorry, Mr. Chair, we do have another hand raised. It is Ms. Chase of 39 Nichols. Do you want me to promote her to speak?
Yes, please.
Hi, Mary Claire. You're muted. Mary Claire, if you can hear us, you're muted. So you have to unmute yourself to talk.
Sorry.
There you go.
Okay, so my parents have owned this house. Well, they did own it for over 40 years in the 50s. And I own it now. And in 2018, when the former owner placed a French drain in and raised all of the property in the back and in the front of the yard, so that all of the water came out through pipes over across our driveway and into a field that I believe became a wetland because of it. I think there's French drains. I can't prove it, but I saw them put them in that are underneath the ground that also cause, cross the driveway and have added additional water to the property. I I was upset about the fact that the Frasers, their first survey, they had an entrance to the property through my driveway without asking my permission. And I, told them that that wasn't possible, given the current circumstances, because I felt like it would not add to the rain, the flow of the water. They have since changed that, but they did not talk to anybody about what they were doing, and just all of us, the abutters, got a letter from them saying there was a meeting, which, wasn't really a nice way to approach the neighborhood. I am very concerned about the water coming in, and think that could be rerouted. Extremely concerned about any chemical runoff. And how are they going to proceed with this as far as excavation? Is it going to change the water table? How far down are they going? Mary Jane Neiman's property, as Brendan mentioned, is pretty much always wet, and she has never done a survey for wetlands. I don't think 35 has ever done a survey for wetlands. And for the entire time I was there before 2018, the entire yard, front, back, side, every time it rained, was completely filled with water. Okay, and since then, and it's not just because we submitted pictures that had nothing to do with the rain today. Okay, it happens every time it rains. The whole water on the side of the property where the shed is knee deep in water every time it rains. And the pipes flow out and flow onto my property. The property used to be beautiful where it flows. And my mother had dementia, sorry. For the last 4 years of her life, she died when she was 100. And because we were 11 children in our family, and there was a trust, nothing was really ever done about, my brother ended up going down and meeting with Jeff. I think his last name was Forsyth. They never pulled a stormwater permit. And Paul Mirabito was involved at the time. He was a friend of my brother's, and, said basically, I don't want to say illegal, but they didn't pull the permits they were supposed to pull. So, the whole thing has been a real issue. And anyway, that's pretty much all I have to say. I think it's really important that Mary Jane gets her wetland survey done, that there is a wetland survey done of the property where it's knee deep in water every time it rains. And I will guarantee, I would be surprised. I shouldn't say I guarantee you, because I know there's a difference between water buildup and wetlands. But I think there should be a survey done of that entire yard. So anyway, that's what I have to say. I have no problem with somebody having a pool if it's done right, if it's within the, the rules. So, thank you.
Okay,
So Charlotte, have you looked at near map to see if there's any other potential wetlands in this area?
I have, but I will admit I'm not as able to discern wetlands on near map. I prefer going to the sites to look at it. There's definitely obviously a wetland as shown on the plans on Miss Chase's property over there, but in the area where it's ponding, right now it's a row of arborvitae, and then there's gravel on 35 Nichols Road where that shed is. So there's definitely a low point in that area, and that is where all the drainage is going from the house. So obviously from the surface level, it doesn't look like a wetland, and from the backyard level, it doesn't look like a wetland. But again, you know, I'm obviously not a professional wetland scientist, so it may need further investigation of if there maybe was a disturbed wetland here. But again, I don't have that history that I can clearly see on near map.
So it's my understanding that there's concern about a sump pump and roof leaders, which have nothing to do with this permit. That in fact, we don't even have jurisdiction over those, that this is something that's pre-existing and probably would be something to be brought up with the building inspector. So I'm just wondering, I'm just trying to redirect us back to what we have in front of us here.
Yeah, good point. We've heard from the abutters. Most of their complaints would require that we do something outside of our jurisdiction to address. I've already made an appeal to Jeff to talk to his client to see if he can sweeten this a little bit, but they have no obligation to do that. If they meet their numbers under the state and local bylaws, then in fact, there's nothing more they need to do to comply.
I think it's
for this permit.
For this
I mean,
permit.
if they have complaints about sump pumps and roof leaders, et cetera, then that's something that they would take to the
Right.
building department, correct?
Yeah. As I
Charlotte?
understand it, yes.
I can double check with the building inspector, but I think for some of the permit concerns, there may or may not be more wetland areas and buffer zones that are not shown here. So, you know, as Brendan had mentioned, they're investigating 33 Nichols, which is to the south of this property. So again, if there are any wetlands in those areas, that may or may not change the impact of the project under the notice of intent. But I don't know if the commission wants to wait for that information. And then in the meantime, as Tom had suggested, you know, potentially talking to his clients about dealing with that other issue with the existing drainage concerns.
So we can't compel the applicant to do a wetland survey on somebody else's private property. And so if the abutters want to do their own wetland survey on their own properties, that's certainly appropriate. But right now, we don't have that information. And we have no reason to think that there is any wetlands here. This sounds like a sort of a fishing expedition to see if they could find one, to me.
There was also just some tweaks to the model, as Brendan had suggested. I
Yeah.
don't know if the commission wants to wait for that information as well.
I can certainly provide that as a follow-up.
Okay.
It's basically at the tail end of the hydrograph, you know, it peaks and then it falls off. And typically HydroCAD defaults to running it for 24 hours.
Mhm.
But sometimes you have a small amount of water still dripping out at the end. Probably the water coming out of like the stone infiltration area. It takes longer to work its way out. It won't impact the peak numbers where, I mean, you're controlling the peaks, the peak rates of the peak. It might have a slight impact on the volumes, I guess, but I really don't think it's going to have any noticeable impact on the numbers. I could provide that. I could follow up with that information though.
Okay. And then,
Jeff, who identified this wetland that's on this drawing?
Brad Holmes, Environmental Consulting and Restoration.
And he did not identify any other wetlands?
No, not within 100 feet of the property.
I had two
I'm
more.
sorry, we
quick
do have
questions.
two. Oh, go ahead. Sorry.
One question was, there's an outdoor shower in Copeland, like, is that outdoor shower that looks like it's in the buffer zone? Will that have, is it okay for that to run off in a protected area?
Sean, what's the intent of that? Is there going to be crushed stone underneath it or?
They always have a crushed.
Underneath? Okay.
Yeah, it might be best to have some of that before it drains off, because if they're doing a shower, they might be using, obviously, products or something, and, obviously, we wouldn't want those to potentially drain anywhere, so kind of like maybe a similar BMP that you would do for the pool.
Yep.
But I guess, sorry, just a quick question for the pool. I think we mentioned the water level would be lowered, so it's not going to be completely drained, it would just be lowered.
No, it's never completely drained.
Okay,
It's only
okay.
small percentage.
Okay.
I had a question about that too, then, like I know we talked about the winter, but in the summer, if there's a rainstorm, is it likely that the pool will spill over and that pool water will enter into the buffer zone?
No, I've never seen a pool overflow.
How much freeboard do you have there?
Usually there's a 6-inch water tile, in which case you have around half of that plus 2.5 inches worth of coping when you include your grout. So you've got close to 5 to 6 inches if the water is hitting in the middle of that water line.
It would take a 6-inch rainfall to overtop the pool.
Take a lot. It would take a lot. It would take a lot to do that. Yeah. Everything is permeable surface around it. So it's not running any place. It's essentially there.
And Mr. Chair, we do have 2 comments in the chat, but Ms. Brown, can you please type in your address for the record, please, and we'll read them. Thank you. So Ms. Shelley Brown of 31 Nichols just wanted to comment on ledge removal. I think that was in regards to some of the, concerns, again, that the neighbors currently have. And then Mary Jane, I believe, of 33 Nichols has a wetland study for her property next week. Just to kind of reiterate that information.
Remind me where that, which property that's going to be on?
To the south of 35 Nichols, so yeah.
Okay. The abutter to the south.
Yes.
Okay. So Jeff, since you have to rerun your HydroCAD and there is an impending wetland study that could impact this, I think you probably ought to continue.
Okay, I understand. I'm open to that. And my client is willing to be, neighborly and have us look into if there is anything better we can do with those drainage pipes. We only got the comment 2 days ago, so we haven't had time to really fully digest that.
Yeah, I'd encourage that. Strong.
I also would say, Jeff, that we look at each hearing individually. So like the intrusion into the 100-foot buffer zone, in this instance, in my mind, as one commissioner, I think there's engineering solutions to reduce the footprint of what you're proposing or to shift it. And I'm gonna, that's something that I'll be looking for as well if you continue.
Yeah,
Okay.
particularly since you've got this outdoor shower that may or may not be discharging shampoo, et cetera, into the groundwater. I think that's something that you need to look at too.
Okay.
There is a driveway in between this piece of property and where that wetland is. If you notice, there's also a wooded area right behind it too. So,
Yeah, and we're also proposing additional vegetation in that area and not removing any vegetation.
correct.
So you're going to put in a screen screen the pool with some, let me guess, arborvitae, right?
Well,
They're already in the ground right there.
we're proposing some cedars, and clathron, some viburnum, excuse me. But there's also a wooded area right behind where the pool cabana is.
Yeah, it looks like it's deciduous to me.
It is.
Yeah. Okay.
Okay.
We're not proposing to remove any of those trees at all.
Okay.
The thing we have is a little water easement that goes around from the edge of the property, which is why you see us kind of working also into the property ways. I know it's in a sliver of it is within that 100-foot buffer, but we're also in a ways from the property line.
Yeah, that's a good point too. It's, you know, the zoning setback for a pool or a cabana that's less than 15 feet tall is 6 feet. So these could be 6 feet off the property line, and we're at 24 feet to the pool and 17 feet to the cabana.
Okay.
So I know they appear close, but you know, they could be closer, and the intent is to create a buffer there and create some privacy for both the applicant and the neighbors.
So I would recommend that you listen carefully to what Commissioner McIntyre was signaling to you and consider that.
Okay.
100-foot no-touch zone,
Yeah.
we're saying?
Yep.
I mean, really, if that's what we're gonna say, we're gonna say it, right?
No, it's not what we're saying. What I said was that we look at each of these hearings individually, each case. And so there's, you know, just because we've allowed certain things in the 100-foot, that's not
I
to
mean,
say
you
that we're
pretty
it's off.
consistently approve houses, structures in the 100-foot buffer in virgin wooded areas. I mean, it's a 50-foot no disturb. You almost 100% of the time allow some work in the 100-foot buffer with a notice of intent filing.
This is a recreational area. It's not a house, not like, I don't know. That's just my opinion. I'm one commissioner. But I think there's options here to reduce it and to stay out of it. Seems like it's just poking into the 100 for no reason.
It's not no reason. It's not no reason. It has to deal with grade, ledge removal on the other side.
Okay, I'm just cautioning you to consider this.
Yeah, and I will just say that previous permits do not set a precedent, but Mr. Chair, we do have Ms. Brown commenting on, I think it's a comment in her letter about ledge. She also wanted to comment on the plantings. Do we want to just promote her to speak real quick?
Yes.
Okay. Hi, Shelley, you're muted.
Oh, am I unmuted now?
Yes, we can hear you.
Thank you. Good evening. I have a couple of questions. Number one, on the ledge, has any excavation been done, given the size of the pool, on how much depth of soil is there for the pool? Considering the size, I assume there's going to be a deep end. And if there isn't, how is the client going to obtain that depth? I would assume that's blasting. And if the blasting is going to occur, that will therefore affect the site. And I would like that question addressed. Also, I don't object to blasting. We've all had to do it on certain occasions, but I do want to make them aware that if blasting does occur, there are repercussions that go well beyond their property to homeowners' residencies, and they should be aware that reverberations from the rock travel. The other thing, just a small comment that should be made down the road as far as plantings. For privacy, we all want plantings that grow quickly and provide privacy, but given the nature of this terrain that tends to be wet, a lot of plants, believe it or not, don't want wet feet. And we've seen many a time where plants are put in only to have them die because they're wet all the time. So you have to keep in mind consideration for what kind of plants you put in there. And the other last comment is, if you have walked this property, and again, I know time and consideration was given to where you put the pool, but it is rather odd that this pool, with the pool equipment that makes a considerable amount of noise, because I've had a pool, and all the other accoutrements going with it that may not be so appealing, but very closely to 39 Nichols and also to 33, and as far away from the main house as possible. And I think that is another thing the neighbors have a concern with, is that all the stuff that you don't like about a pool is as far away from 35 Nichols residents as possible.
So Ms. Brown, let me clarify our jurisdiction. The only jurisdiction we have about planting in the 100-foot buffer, as you can see from the screen, is that heavy black line and everything to the right of it. As far as ledge removal, if this were to fall within the land alteration bylaw, that would be something that the planning board would handle. So none of the issues that you've raised are within our jurisdiction.
Okay, so given that, guide me a little bit. Therefore, some of these questions should be posed to the planning board?
Or the building inspector. The building inspector
I think you start with the
controls,
building inspector, yeah.
the building inspector controls a blasting permit. Um,
Oh,
But my
sorry, Chris,
question
that's
is,
fire
no, but
department.
I have a question. So let's say, okay, the blasting is outside your jurisdiction.
yep.
So, you do some excavation for the pool and you find out, well, guess what? There's ledge right below, which is no surprise. Therefore, we want to blast. So you blast and everything that we've talked about here as far as drainage and everything else has changed because you've changed the topography. So then it will end up back with you. Is that correct?
Well, actually, what's proposed is the change to the topography, and if they were to excavate, that would be a temporary change and not necessarily something that we would be either in our jurisdiction or concern, other than during the construction process, we would require erosion controls. So again, I encourage you to bring this up with the building inspector first to get guidance as to who to speak to next about your concerns. But for our jurisdiction, none of what you've raised, other than what might happen within that 100-foot buffer, is we have no authority to rule on it one way or the other.
Well, that's
So
just
you
a
do have
little,
reco-
it's perplexing because
Yeah.
if you give approval to this with a major onus not undiscovered as far as ledge removal, it seems like there should be a little more communication
Well,
town.
Jeff, let me ask you this. Do you have a building permit here for this yet?
No, not yet. We can't get a building
Okay.
permit until,
Yeah,
we have
okay.
the NOI stormwater permit. I
So-
can tell you
so-
there will be ledge removal directly within the footprint of the pool.
So
especially
as
for
far as
deep
our jurisdiction goes, if we issue a approval here, that doesn't mean that they can immediately jump in there and start digging their pool. They need a building permit, and that comes from the building department. So again, I'd encourage you to go to town hall and talk to them. They'll tell you whose jurisdiction it is and what the bylaws say, and that's where you go next, I guess.
All right, so we did request, or we will request to continue for 2 weeks.
Okay.
And in that time, we'll look to see what we can do about that drainage from the sump pump, and as well as all the other items. I have a whole list of things that we can take a look at. And if the applicants discover any wetlands, if they could let us know as soon as possible, and we'll take it from there.
Yeah, I'm happy to be the communication hub for that, Jeff. If I do hear from Brendan and from Ms. Neiman, if there are wetlands that we need to properly show on the plan, because that is a requirement of the stormwater regulations. And I'm sorry, Mr. Chair, we do have Miss Mary Claire Chase from 39 Nichols raising her hand. I don't know if she has a follow-up question to that.
Okay, recognize her.
Hi, Mary Claire, you're muted.
All right, I'm sorry to prolong this because I'm kind of new at this. So if you could maybe help me with this one. I know you said that it was, well, whatever, on 35 Nichols Road, because of the past there and because of all the drainage, can you explain to me again why it's not required that they have a wetland survey?
Well, I think that we're not requiring, because as we look at the topography, we look at the lot here, it does not look as if 35 Nichols would have a wetland. We'd be looking for the vegetation, we'd be looking for depressions in the topography that might indicate there's a wetland there, but there's no real reason. And Charlotte, you've walked this property, correct?
I have, yes. I can pull up the topography in Mass Mapper if it helps, but there is a shallow depression in the area that she's referring to. But again, you know, we have to go by the DEP boarding vegetated wetland methodology of looking for the majority of wetland plants, hydric soils, and signs of hydrology. You know, it's difficult to discern that from, you know, a disturbed landscaped area that has all, you know, structures and arborvitae plants and, you know, stuff that obviously would never naturally occur in a wetland. You know, it's obvious where the wetland is, obviously on 39 Nichols. It's just for 35 Nichols, at least by looking at the aerial imagery and looking at it on site. I mean, it's definitely a depression area that does pond. It's just, it's hard to define it as a wetland if it doesn't have those criteria.
But even if prior to this, the entire yard was wet for 40 years, I mean, they built it up. So wouldn't, I mean, if it was a wetland, they tore up all the trees. So if it was a wetlands, wouldn't it still be a wetland if it was before?
We have a number of structures in town that have been built on wetlands that it goes all the way back to colonial times. And once that wetland has been removed, either by fill or the construction of buildings or whatever, or driveways or parking lots, the wetland is gone. And so we can't call up the ghost of a wetland to start drawing buffer lines, and there's nothing left to protect. Basically,
I will,
our charge is to protect. A wetland's considered a resource. In some senses, a limited sense, it's a public resource. And once it's gone, then there's nothing left to protect.
Yeah, I will just add a quick note to that unless there's any evidence that the existing area was a wetland and it was filled, that is an ongoing violation. However, if there's no clear evidence, like, you know, anything that was previously submitted to the Conservation Commission that it was clearly a wetland and then obviously it was filled with whenever certain work was done on the property, that would definitely be a different story. But unfortunately, as Tom said, over the last, you know, the Wetlands Protection Act is only 50 years old. So, you know, even in those 50 years, there may have been areas that were historically wetlands, but have obviously been developed since then. So it's really difficult to just start digging up every single site to see if there is any presence of historic wetlands. You have to go by the wetlands that are currently known as shown, you know, in the topography and the maps, going by the DEP methodology of looking for the majority of wetland plants, hydric soils, and signs of hydrology. But on a fully developed property, it's really difficult to rip up the site and go backwards in time, because obviously if we were to start doing that to everybody's property in town, I'm sure we would not make many friends, potential lawsuits. But yeah, so sorry, it is a difficult question to ask. You know, if there's any historical imagery that clearly shows a wetland, I think that's definitely worth noting. And then obviously, as I've said before, fill that's added to a wetland is an ongoing violation that's taken very seriously. But if we don't have sufficient evidence of that there was a wetland here that was filled, it's hard to investigate a fully landscaped area to determine whether or not it's a wetland.
Okay, thank you very much.
Yeah, no problem. Thank you, Mary Claire. Sorry, I
Okay.
know that's a long explanation, but I hope that
No,
makes sense.
I appreciate it.
Thank you. So yeah, Jeff, I think just to quickly recap, it sounds like, you know, again, I will definitely let you know of any wetland survey data done on 33 Nichols. I can communicate that information to you. I think you just have to rerun your model, changing it from 24 to 30 hours.
Yep.
And then again, maybe again, potentially considering having a chat with your client about the other drainage issues on the site.
Yeah, which they are open to, so.
Okay. And then am I missing anything else? I think that at least for the stormwater permit and the notice of intent, I think that was it.
Okay.
Chris, anybody, we missing anything here for stuff that he'll have to come back and give us? No?
No, nothing else from me.
Yeah, nothing for me.
Okay. All
Oh,
right.
sorry. Do we cover the outdoor shower too? Like
Yes,
just beneath
yes,
the-
thank you, Sanjay. Yeah, so the outdoor shower, maybe adding what, like a crushed stone area for drainage and kind of just
Typically do that, yeah.
adding any BMPs for, you know, preventing any illicit discharge or, you know, water with soap suds or anything into, you know, buffer zones and wetlands.
Yeah, and perhaps moving the pool equipment, at the very least, the pool equipment and the shower out of the 100.
Okay.
Sure.
You know, get the mechanicals somewhere else.
Okay.
Okay, so you're all set, Jeff?
And Jeff,
yeah.
did you say March 21st initially, and then if anything changes, we can always push it back?
Yes, please.
Okay.
Okay, next, we're going to resume the.
Thank you,
public
Jeff. Thank you,
hearing.
everyone.
Thanks, everyone.
John?
We're going to resume the public hearing for NOI 24. Stormwater permit, actually, 2318 Deer Hill School. It's been continued from January 18th this year.
Yes, sorry, give me 1 sec to switch people over. This is, we're on Deer Hill, right? And yeah, I will just reiterate again for the audience that NOI 24-01 and stormwater permit 24-01 and the show cause for 26 Lambert's Lane and 26, 28, 30, and 32 Lambert's Lane has been continued to March 31st for now. I'm sorry, 21st for now, for anyone in the audience for that hearing. And, I believe I have Brendan, and then here we go. I have Susan Owen from the schools and Brendan Sullivan from Merrill Engineers and Land Surveyors representing the applicant. Hey, Brendan.
Yes, good evening. Am I on?
Yes.
Evening. So sorry, I didn't know Lambert's Lane was going to be continued. This is their Deer Hill School, the bus and car parking being proposed. I believe it was, geez, it's been a while, maybe December, has it been, Charlotte? The last meeting?
It's continued from January 18th, Brendan.
Oh, okay. So since that meeting, we've had a couple on-site meetings with some abutters. Charlotte and I have been out there most recently as last week, I believe. So let me maybe pull up the plan. Probably want to see that. So since the last meeting, so it was determined that the bus parking classified it as a loophole, was it, Charlotte? I'm getting those acronyms right.
A LUPL, yeah, land
LUPL.
use of higher potential pollutant load.
Yes, because we're considering this a fleet storage for the bus parking spaces. So we've eliminated some of these stone trench. We've added a catch basin on the southeasternmost portion. We've added a catch basin up here to collect the runoff to. We've kept the trench, so there's some pre-treatment before it gets into the catch basin. And the catch basin is discharged into the same infiltration underground subsurface infiltration system that's in the current lawn area here. The other changes, we did add the wetland flags. We had John Zimmer, the wetland scientist, go out and delineate the wetlands and the buffer zones. All the work is outside of the 100-foot buffer. And other than that, we did add a few more plantings to provide some more screening to the abutting residential properties along the top of the hill and around the side slope as well. And I believe over here as well, we've added some more plantings to kind of hide and for the proposed bus parking. I think that's about it. And I know Charlotte, we've been going back and forth with Charlotte about some of the special conditions for the treatment and the ongoing maintenance of the parking spaces. I believe is going to be under, we finally determined it's going to go into DPW, was it Charlotte? That was going to be handling this?
So, yeah, and I have Susan Owen, from the schools on here as well to kind of, just reiterate anything I'm missing here. So we did talk about some, potential permit conditions that may address some of the, drainage concerns, the ongoing maintenance concerns, that abutters have in relation to the stormwater permit. One of which was actually suggested by the applicant, Glenn Pratt, to, for the schools to hire a contracted professional to go out and inspect this area in accordance with the required maintenance schedule, because, realistically, we're kind of thinking, and I did talk about this with DPW, that, since this is a LUPL site, there's definitely more maintenance than your average stormwater permit. So realistically, there were some concerns of whether or not the town could consistently do this. So Glenn had suggested a condition, and I spoke to Susan about this as well, that the schools would hire a professional to kind of go out and inspect the area in accordance with the long-term operation and maintenance plan. And then I did have some other conditions, which I can pull up whenever we're ready to look at them, if we're ready to look at them tonight. And one of them was obviously keeping the site clean with trash, being removed from the site. We don't want it obviously spilling, not just into the close by 100-foot buffer lower down on the plan here, but just in general of keeping the site clean. Also some other conditions of potentially working with any sort of landscaping changes. Obviously, the tree selection has to be approved by the tree warden since this is a town property. But there was talk with abutters of maybe some more privacy screening with landscaping with tree plantings. So that is definitely something that we can work out. As you can see, there is a line of trees right now in the plan, but we may or may not be shifting those around or adding more, or so that was definitely another comment. And then again, I can pull up my list because right now it's not in front of me right now, so I might be forgetting something. But I didn't know, Susan, if you had any additional comments to that. Like, I know we talked about it, but I just want to make sure that all makes sense to you. that the schools would contract out somebody to help inspect this area for long-term maintenance assurance.
Sure. Good evening, everyone. Yeah, you and I spoke, and I read through the the stipulations of the. They sound fine. We're not in any hurry to get this going. We're basically just trying to figure out, is it a viable piece of property for us to store our buses? If it's not, it's not. If it is, right now, we're tied into paying a private citizen to park our buses. So we're not in a big rush to go anywhere. We've just been given the task of, rather than paying rent somewhere, why can't we put it on one of our own pieces of property? And, we've worked with Michelle Leary and Glenn Pratt to try to find other places to park. And it's just that there's not many available spots in Cohasset. So this was just one thought.
Thank you, Susan. I appreciate that.
Do you have a section through the infiltration area? And is there a test pit there?
Yeah, we did a test pit right in the middle of the area there. I believe it's on the detail sheet. Yes. So that was test pit number 1.
Let's scoot in a
yeah.
little bit more so we can read that. It's pretty small. Thanks.
So I believe that was test pit number 1. Ground elevation about 60.5, groundwater elevation about 54. I found faint models at about at elevation 54. And we went down to a depth of 84 inches. And they were done in August of 2023.
So can you go back to the plan and zoom in on where you took it?
Yep, right here in the middle of the infiltration system. Just
Can you zoom in, please?
Oh, sure.
Okay. So you said 64, but you took it at 60 and a half.
No, 60 and a half was the top of the was the top of the ground elevation is 60.4.
Okay, okay.
Groundwater
I thought
elevation.
you said 64.
No, 54 is the groundwater elevation.
Okay.
Because I found faint models at about, so almost about 6 feet down.
Okay, so now do you have a section through the infiltration?
Deep sump. Yep, right there. So we have 54, we have about 2 feet of separation, half a foot of stone, chamber's about a foot high, about half a foot of stone on top of the chamber, and then about a foot of cover minimum. Gets me to a grade, 59, 60, and our existing grade is about 60.5. So there's a little bit of mounding on the downslope side, and so it's kind of built into the slope on the upslope side. So there's a little bit of minor grading on the downslope side, and the upslope side, it's pretty much all level. So it's not gonna be mounded, it's gonna kind of tear off, level out a little bit, and then, be like a 4-to-1 slope after that.
So the hillside will still read as a hillside.
Yes.
You'll just, okay.
Yep.
Now, you have an overflow on this, correct?
Yes. Yep, we have 2
Does-
overflow pipes right here. 2 6-inch
and-
overflow pipes.
And does it have to point towards the neighbor?
I mean, I don't
where's
think
it, where's it gonna go? That's the question.
well, it's gonna go over the existing lawn area. It's probably not even gonna make the neighbor's property. It's probably gonna go over the existing lawn area and down to Sawyer Street.
Okay, well, so so all I can say is that, the town should be a good neighbor to the neighbors, and it shouldn't be a probable, it should be a definite. It just seems,
That's how it's modeled. That's how it's modeled. We had, like I said, number of visits with the, homeowners out there. We've added trees to, appease some of their concerns about looking at the buses. So there was other concerns about, cost and the analysis of the siting. And I said, that wasn't my bailiwick. That's the school department. And, as
No,
soon
I
as
understand. I understand.
so,
I'm specifically talking about the overflow pipes.
yes,
Because what we have found is these systems, they always overflow. I mean, that's what we found on every project we've ever put them in on, that they overflow. And
not all of them, I would say. Have you inspected any of them after a rain event?
We've heard about hundreds
Oh.
of them after rain events.
Hearing of it and witnessing that is 2 different things. And I've witnessed
Well, thank you for telling me that. I
these
appreciate
infiltration
it.
systems that they work
What
very.
I'm saying to you is what I see on this plan is contours heading towards the neighbor's property. I don't even see the position of the home here next door, but I do see outfall pipes heading in that general direction. So
Well, we can certainly change the direction of the outfall pipes and have them go further in the, let's see, the westerly direction, so maybe over in this area here, to ensure that the runoff does not end up on the abutting property. It's going to go over the existing lawn area, probably into the tree area further down, and then eventually end up on, if it does end up on Sawyer Street.
Well, there's a big piece of property. Couldn't it stay on the Deer Hill property?
If we wanted to make the infiltration system probably twice as big, we could, sure.
No, but I'm saying if what we're looking at is an infiltration system that possibly will overflow. So if it overflows, does it have to go into Sawyer Street, or can it be picked up on the property? You know, a little grass depression or something to that effect.
We could certainly do that at the outlet. We can make a small detention pond or something like that. Something similar to what Jeff proposed at the last.
Okay.
And
And what kind of trees are you proposing?
They haven't been specified, but the abutters, the abutters, would like to see some evergreen, some sort of, some that's, leafed or year-round coverage. So, you're not looking at buses during the winter and fall seasons.
Charlotte, what do we have? What do we have in the evergreen department?
From our lists,
Yes.
give me 1 second. We have 2 lists, but I'll read the one that we all are more familiar with.
Brendan, can you back out a little bit? On
Atlantic white cedar, larch or tamarack, common juniper, eastern red cedar, black spruce, eastern white pine, and pitch pine. Those are from that's from our principal native species South Shore list, and then we have a larger list that has more coastal oriented plantings, but that's our tree list.
Okay.
For wet and dry soil. Sorry, I read both columns.
Mm-hmm.
So it looks to me like if you put your thin filtration chamber closer to the bus operation building, your discharge would then flow to the wetland.
No.
No.
Might go in that direction. There's already water issues over in that wetland area that come from a unmaintained detention pond from, so this is Deer Hill. Is it Osgood School? Isn't there a school behind there? What's the school down, the other school down here? Charlotte?
Yes. Yep, I was gonna say yes.
So
Susan, correct me if I'm wrong, but it's Osgood is behind, well,
Yeah,
on the
they-
lower
It
side.
is.
This wetland area is associated with a poorly maintained or unmaintained. Well, maybe DPW started to maintain it because they started cutting down trees over there, but of a detention pond that's over there that overflows and goes through these properties, ends up in a pipe that goes down a common driveway between some properties over here. So I'd rather not exacerbate that drainage issue that's going on there. I mean, I think this is the best solution for the stormwater over here. Like I said, I could redirect the pipes to go further down, to the west, so ensure that it doesn't get to the abutting properties, and then it still flows over the grass and through the wooded area before if it would even get to Sawyer Street.
So if we were to reorient it, would that be northwest, Brendan, on the plan? Sorry, I can't see the arrow.
Yeah,
Yeah, so north to the
yeah,
northwest instead of the
straight up.
northeast.
Yeah, so
Okay.
northwest. I'm sorry, did I say northeast? I meant northwest.
Okay, thank you.
Charlotte, isn't there a maintenance issue with DPW, or did that get resolved?
So I think we've resolved it because we spoke with Susan, with Brian Joyce, and with Glenn Pratt about having the schools hire basically a third-party professional engineer, licensed professional to inspect the site as required per the maintenance schedule. And I did draft out conditions for that I sent to everybody, and it seems like we're in agreement on those. But I was just typing actually right now to add a condition about revising the plan, but I don't know if we're ready to have that conversation yet. Just wanted to let you know that I have it written down.
So what I may propose at the outlet, would be, maybe be a small, exactly what they call it, maybe a plunge pad or something that would fill up and dissipate the water a little more evenly than just a point source discharge. I think that would help out, dissipate some of the runoff a little easier and moving the outlets further to the west.
Yeah, it really is the issue. We're moving from a sheet wash situation to a point source here with these. And I know our bylaws don't really address this very well. You know, you can make your numbers, but nevertheless, when these things do overflow, they are a point source of all of that runoff that enters that chamber if it's already full. And the groundwater around it is totally saturated. So yeah, it's just a pass-through kind of situation where you went from sort of a dispersed sheet flow-like flow across the landscape to a point discharge. So yeah. So you're going to show me something here?
Me, no. Sorry, I was looking through some files.
Oh, okay. I thought you were scrolling through your HydroCAD
Yeah, we just seeing what kind
schematic to tell me how much was going to come out of that discharge pipe under various conditions.
So the 2-year event, I don't know if you saw, but the 2-year event had just about 3/100ths of a CFS coming out during a 2-year event, which is your most common event.
Yeah, right.
So you're talking about minimum flow during your low storm events. You know, I know we've gotten a lot of rain, but we haven't even probably even gotten a near a 2-year event, 2-year 24-hour event in a while.
Right. But there's a 2% chance every year we're going to get it, right?
Right.
No, it's more than that.
Yeah. Well, a 2-year event is every 2 years, so it's a 50% chance every year, right?
Right. Okay, so where are we at here? Everyone's silent.
I just
Sounds
had
like
a question, please.
There we go.
Is this parking space, does it hold all the buses of the town, or is it just these 10 buses? I don't know how many we have in the town. Is this will be the parking place for all the buses?
I don't know.
Yes,
Susan, do you have an answer for that?
that would be the parking lot for our buses, including our electric bus.
Okay, I was just curious. Thank you.
And Brendan, I can't remember, does the plan call for charging stations? I think it does.
Yeah, it does. Every other stall had one.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so what are our sticking points here, or are there any more? Comments from the commissioners? Are we ready to make a
I have
motion?
a list, but I'll pull it up when you guys are ready.
A list of what?
Conditions.
Oh, I see. Yeah. Okay. So before we get there, I'm asking whether anybody has any further comments or questions or any reasons why we might request continuance or anything that you don't think has been appropriately addressed yet. Okay, so we don't. Charlotte, you want to read your list and then we'll move to a motion?
Sure. I know Angela will be mad at me. I don't know if you want me to read it, but there are quite a few. I just added this one, which I'll read. So let me know if you guys want me to revise this, but I was just kind of taking notes from what Brendan and Chris were talking about, that the site plan shall be revised and submitted in writing to the commission to reorient the overflow pipe to the northwesterly direction to prevent any possible overflow to the neighbor's properties, sorry. And then a plunge pad, is that what it was called? Sorry,
Yes.
that's new to me. Yep,
Yep,
plunge pad shall be added.
DEP approved device.
Okay. I don't know if we want me to write that, but yes, thank you. That's awesome. Shall be added to the spillover area, and a grass depression shall be added in front, in front of the overflow pipe to collect runoff more efficiently to reduce runoff towards Sawyer Street. So, I mean, I know that's very wordy, but does that kind of make sense? If what we're
Yes.
asking for the plans to be revised?
Yes.
Do we want to review this administratively, or do we want this to come back to us, or are you guys good with an administrative review for this?
This appears to be a minor change to the plan, and I think that, in my opinion, it may be handled administratively.
Okay. And
If
then,
anybody has any objections, here's your chance.
Yep.
Okay, yeah, let's
and
move
then
along.
I'll quickly summarize these, so feel free to read them as I'm talking. So this is pretty basic, that no site work shall commence until all other permits have been obtained, because this would have to go to select board and then obviously a building permit. I'm not aware of any other reviews. And then the limit of work shall be staked and inspected prior to any activity that's related to the erosion, the site inspection condition that is listed below. And then any changes need to come back. So kind of just reiterating that if there's any changes from the other boards, that needs to come back to us and submitted prior to any site work. All conditions, BMPs, inspections in the long-term prevention and blues plan shall be followed as part of this permit, and and shall be a surviving condition, I guess. With the issuance of a COC, any changes obviously have to be sent back to us. And then this is the one I was talking about. The school department from the town of Cohasset shall contract a licensed engineer or similar professional, basically do all the long-term maintenance inspections, ensure compliance, and with the approved stormwater design, evaluate performance review controls, et cetera. And then the engineer shall submit written inspection reports. This is kind of copied from the long-term maintenance plan, no later than December 31st. I just added that date since that's common. And then after the first year service, we kind of get a fair idea of what the maintenance schedule will need to be and what reporting is required. And then any tree planting shall be considered, just added that as a general note to mitigate any flooding and privacy screening concerns. I know we've kind of already done that on the plans, but obviously any changes from here may be needed. And then, of course, the condition that you have started to see a lot now until it's added to our permit template, just about the required inspections. So pre-construction, before stormwater installation of the system is installed, prior to paving, prior to landscaping, and then inspection.
Okay, so.
I know this is very long, so if you want me to scroll back up or down to read anything, just let me know. But I think I've covered everything, but let me know if I've missed anything. I'm happy to revise this.
Any suggested revisions? Looks like it's good, Charlotte. Does any commissioner wish to make a motion to approve or deny this stormwater permit?
I'll make a motion to approve.
Go ahead.
I'll make a motion to approve. Do I have to recite everything, or?
Yes, please. So make a motion to close the hearing and issue a stormwater permit with the conditions as shown by the agent or something.
I move to approve the storm permit and close the session per the conditions set forth by the agent.
Good enough. Do we have a second?
Second.
We're going to have a roll call vote. Kathy Berrigan,
Kathy Berrigan, aye.
Sanjay Fernando,
Sanjay Fernando, aye.
Chris McIntyre, or Chris McFarland,
Chris McFarland, aye.
Chris McIntyre,
Chris McIntyre, aye.
Tom Bell, aye. This passes 5-0-0.
Great. Thank you very much, guys. Appreciate it.
Thank you, Brendan. Thank you, Susan.
Welcome.
Okay.
Thank you.
You're
Thank
welcome.
you, guys.
Welcome.
Okay. Next is a resumption of the public hearing for NOI 24-3, stormwater permit 24-3, 94 Black Horse Lane. Continued from February 15th. Take it away, Charlotte.
Yep, so I'm promoting Carmen Hudson from Merrill Engineers and Land Surveyors, representing the applicant, Nino DeNuno, Katie Construction. Hi, Carmen.
Yes, I'm sorry. I do have to apologize ahead of hand. This is way past my bedtime. I looked much better at 7 o'clock, and I give you so much credit for doing this. So I am here with Nino. Adam unfortunately couldn't make it tonight, but I think he might be listening over the phone. If I may, and I don't know if I can really put too many words together, so I'm not going to attempt. I'm going to keep it short, but if I just may share my screen, just to show you what is new. So the way we left the last hearing, we were supposed to address Charlotte's comments, which we couldn't address at the time because we couldn't provide the revised plans 7 days in advance, which is the requirement. So we addressed all of her comments, and her comments consisted of, you really can't see it on this one. Let me share my erosion control plan, which shows most of the changes. So Charlotte had asked to move a stockpiling area, which we were proposing partially within the riverfront. We took it out altogether. She had also asked to provide a tire washing area, which we have added here, a 20 by 60 tire washing area. Also, Charlotte had asked to include all of the trees which we have here. We had to add a tree plan. So this tree plan shows every tree within the site that is within all of the areas that will be disturbed that are 12 inches and over, and within the buffer zone that are 6 inches and over. And we are showing there will be 1 tree in the 100-foot buffer zone right here that will be removed. All of the other trees will be protected. This little pink circles around these trees are the tree protection to make sure that the construction, you see, I cannot speak, that the employees that will be doing the construction will not touch them. And she had also, Charlotte had asked to include the operation and maintenance plan here, which we did we added it to the erosion and sedimentation control plan. We also have a detail of the proposed construction entrance. And if you have any questions, I would love to answer them at this time.
Commissioners.
Oh, Carmen, I think you had provided also, it was a velocity analysis. I think some of
Yes.
our commissioners requested that.
Yes, so I was just sharing what I added to the plans, but yes, you're
Oh,
correct.
thank you. Yeah.
You had also asked for some revisions to the construction operation and maintenance plan and the long-term operation and maintenance plan, which we did, and we provided to you in PDF and Word. And also, this was Will, who's not here tonight, but he had asked for, there had been a comment at the end, it was in the last review letter by Weston and Sampson, where we were going through the planning board approval, that he was asking about any erosion down the stream of the overflow pipe, and Bill had asked if that had been addressed. I told him that it had, and I provided you with a copy of the analysis. We had to do a HydroCAD analysis for that to show that the velocities were low and they were only at a little over 1 feet per second. So that's very low. So yes, so everything I think has been addressed. Charlotte, you didn't have anything left to address, and again, any questions, I would love to answer them at this time while I'm still awake.
Can you go back to the other plan, please, and zoom in a little bit?
The tree plan or the
Yes,
proposed
tree plan.
Yes.
Can you zoom in, please? So how many trees total are being removed?
1 in the buffer zone.
Okay.
And I think the rest of them in the riverfront area in buffer zone have tree protection barriers around them.
Yes. So all the pink, because that was another one of your comments to show tree protection around the trees that will be preserved within the resource area and buffer zones. So that's the pink. Those trees are going to be protected. That tree will be removed.
Do you have a detail for that?
It's just a construction fencing.
At the trunk?
Yes.
So Charlotte, I think you can comment on this. I mean, it doesn't work. So can we do something that actually protects the trees?
Yeah, do we want to widen it out to what, like the drip line? And then we've looked at a bunch of barriers before. We've considered hard construction fencing, orange construction fencing. I don't know if we have a preference there, but I'm happy to, obviously clarify that. But usually we do out to the drip line to just make sure that, we're not damaging any of the main roots around the trunk.
I mean, I don't think they're going to be able to do that here. Some of them are
Okay.
so close to the road.
Yeah,
but,
it's tight.
5 feet from edge of pavement and just have a fence, a temporary fence that keeps people back from that. That's the best you can probably do, but
Okay.
it's better than what,
And
at
5
the
feet from
trunk
edge
itself.
of pavement.
And we're not talking about snow fence here. We're talking about chain link.
Chain link or you can rent welded wire fence, but it's a 5-foot fence and it's stable and
Right.
keeps people from running.
What
right
I'm
in.
getting at is no soft materials like snow fence or anything like
Yeah,
that.
because it just gets run over.
Okay.
So Charlotte, is that the only real? Are there any other issues on the rest of the length of this road?
I had suggested conditions, so I'm happy to pull those up whenever, but yeah, in terms of my comments, that did encapsulate pretty much all my comments about just making the limit of work clear, moving the washout station, showing the trees to be removed. We don't have a standard in our wetlands regs for the minimum amount, so we chose 6 based on other projects and plans, but for stormwater, it's 12-inch or greater. But in the riverfront, we chose 6-inch or greater. And then I did have a lot of detailed comments about erosion control, so Carmen has addressed all of those. In the stockpile area, you'll see in red, there's like a separate barrier kind of encapsulating that area. And then the washout station is shown outside of riverfront. Staging and stockpiling has all been removed outside of riverfront. And yeah, that, at least for me, that was pretty much it. But I do have, I'm sorry.
What do we, is this just stormwater?
This is a stormwater and a notice of intent because some of the work is occurring within riverfront and the 100-foot and 50-foot buffer. So there will be a variance that will be needed for the work in the 50-foot buffer.
This is the work. There's 54 square feet of additional driveway or pavement that is proposed within the 50.
Is it possible to replace, as a condition, maybe replace the tree that's being removed?
I had that as a bracketed condition. I wasn't sure if you guys wanted that or not. But yes, that is a possibility.
Yeah, I think that'd be helpful.
And Charlotte, this is a subdivision, isn't it? Or is it a shared driveway? I've forgotten.
This is
We have
common.
to go through a definitive subdivision approval.
I'm sorry, you both spoke at the same time.
We did have to go for a subdivision approval because the common driveway was denied.
Okay, so this is a subdivision.
Mhm.
So my question to you, Charlotte, is does that extend our jurisdiction to anything different than if it were a common driveway?
That's a good, it's a difficultly worded question.
Let me reword it.
Yeah.
Are the rules, are regulations and bylaws different for subdivisions than they are for common driveways.
Our bylaws don't specifically reference common driveways, but we do have in our bylaw a section related to subdivisions. It's like subsection C in a section in the bylaw. I can pull it up so you guys can see it. And basically it's implying that for subdivision projects, the way that the language is worded is that you don't want, obviously the stormwater bylaws apply to all phases of subdivision plans because you obviously don't want a subdivision project being split up into multiple pieces where it wouldn't hit those thresholds. And then Adam Brodsky, since he couldn't be here tonight, he did provide an explanation because I think there were some questions about that. I can pull it up because I think it might be easier to read it. And obviously he's gonna word it in a better lawyering way than I will, but it does kind of explain again that this is a permit just for the driveway. We did have a permit for the homes, but that obviously has to be revised at some point because now you have this revised driveway plan.
Yeah.
But this permit was just for the common driveway as a result of planning board's decision.
Well, it's not a common driveway, it's a subdivision road.
Sorry, yes, I'm sorry.
I just wanted to make sure that we're not overlooking something here before we move forward, and it doesn't sound like we are.
Yeah, did you want me to pull up Adam Brodsky's kind of explanation a little bit? I don't know if it might help for
Well, no,
reference.
I recall his explanation that we were just.
Okay, because he put it in writing.
Yeah, that we were just dealing with the road here, rather than the structures on the road.
Correct. And the early kind of the
So
early
this was
version
just-
of.
I just brought it up just as just to kind of before we sign up, make sure that we understand what the extent of our jurisdiction is and whether or not we might have missed something, but it doesn't seem so. Okay, so have we resolved all the issues? Maybe I'll just say, does anybody have any further comments or questions? So with that,
Tom, I'm sorry.
go
Can we pull the plan up one more time?
Okay.
And can we look to the right, please?
Oh.
I just wanted to see where the buffers were. So the green, the buffer marked in green is that the 200 foot?
Yeah.
So the
Riverfront?
blue is the 200-foot riverfront.
Oh.
And the green is the 100-foot buffer zone.
100 foot from the salt
From
marsh?
this, we have salt marsh.
Yeah.
We also have a BVW here, and we have an isolated vegetated wetland here.
Okay. Okay. I just wanted to review those again. Thank you.
Okay, so I'll make a motion to.
Oh, sorry, Tom, I did have comments for this one too. I had conditions for this one.
Oh, yes, of course.
Yep. As you can see, this will probably happen until we've revised our template to add my big inspection condition, but I was
Okay.
just typing out that we want the tree proposed to be removed within riverfront shall be replaced with the native tree selected from the commission's approved planting lists. And shall be planted somewhere within the riverfront area.
3.5 inch caliper.
Okay. 3.5.
Yep.
Okay. And then we wanted, so yeah, I'll just quickly summarize these that, just added this, and then that the applicant has to keep a clean construction site, removing dirt, dust, debris from all wetland resource areas and buffer zones. If a dumpster is on site, it needs to be always covered. No stockpiling, staging is allowed within our wetlands jurisdiction. Tree protection guards and barriers shall be installed as necessary around the trees proposed to remain within the limit of work. All barriers shall be inspected by the agent. And then
Charlotte, I think we said that it would be protection guards around the drip zone, right?
Yeah. Oh, wait, we wanted it within 5 feet of pavement, right? Because the drip zone might be a little tough.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, the drip zone goes over the current pavement.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Hard construction fences, construction fence barriers.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. And is that kind of it for that one? 5 feet from edge of pavement, like a hard
Yep.
construction fence? Okay. And then I just had this, I mean, this is outside of riverfront area, but I mean, we can definitely mark the trees proposed to remain in riverfront, but I didn't know, based on the limit of clearing, if we kind of just wanted to make sure that nothing extra is going to get taken out, or if we just want that to be in riverfront, we can do that. This was a similar condition proposed by the planning board. I'm kind of just mirroring it. So the planning board had a condition about not using fertilizers on the lawns along the roadway or common areas to kind of mitigate any impacts to the Gulf River and surrounding habitats. So I felt like that kind of overlapped with our jurisdiction, which is why I put it on the plans. And then I just added the note that it's perpetual. It also matches our condition about not using fertilizers, et cetera, within the wetland resource areas. And then obviously as very common inspection condition. So that's actually why I'm typing this out every time until we add this to the permit template. But I think does this kind of make sense to you guys?
Yes.
And do you guys want to do this within the limit of work or just within riverfront?
No, I think it's, well,
Because they're going to stake the limit of work. So we're going to know where the limit of work is.
yeah,
Yeah. Okay.
that's fine.
Okay.
All
Oh,
right.
sorry, Carmen, do you have a question?
No,
Okay.
did I raise my hand?
No. I thought I heard you trying to speak, but I think. maybe
Oh,
somebody
no,
else is.
you know what? I'm so sorry. My dog is here. I have a Maltipoo that's sleeping right here and she snores a little bit. So probably it was her. I'm
That's
throwing my
okay.
dog under the bus.
That's okay, but does this look good to you guys? Am I missing anything? Do you guys want to see any other conditions?
Looks good.
Yeah, looks
I'm
fine.
hearing all yeses. Okay.
Okay.
All right.
So, does anyone want to
Proceed.
offer a motion?
I'll make a motion to close the public hearing, issue a, we have to do them independently, right?
Yes, and we need a variance for work within the 50-foot
All
buffer.
right, so we'll start with a, order of conditions, including those outlined by Charlotte, for, what's the address here? 96 Black Horse?
94.
94.
94 Black Horse Lane. There a second?
Second. Oh,
Oh, we have lots of seconds. Okay, we're going to vote. Kathy Berrigan,
Kathy Berrigan, aye.
Sanjay Fernando,
Sanjay Fernando, aye.
Chris McFarland,
Chris McFarland, aye.
Chris McIntyre,
Chris McIntyre, aye.
Tom Bell, aye. Passes 5-0-0.
Make a motion to issue a stormwater permit with the same conditions for 94 Black Horse Lane.
Second,
Second.
roll call vote. Kathy Berrigan,
Kathy Berrigan, aye.
Sanjay Fernando,
Sanjay Fernando, aye.
Chris McFarland,
Chris McFarland, aye.
Chris McIntyre,
Chris McIntyre, aye.
Tom Bell, aye. That motion passes 5-0-0.
And last, I make a motion to issue a variance for work within the buffer zone. Are we in the buffer or are we in the resource? Just the buffer, right?
riverfront.
In the
The
50-foot buffer.
In the 50-foot buffer for work at 94 Black Horse Lane.
Second,
Second.
roll call vote. Kathy Berrigan,
Kathy Berrigan, aye.
Sanjay Fernando,
Sanjay Fernando, aye.
Chris McFarland,
Chris McFarland, aye.
Chris McIntyre,
Chris McIntyre, aye.
Tom Bell, aye. That motion passes 5-0-0.
Thank you so much. Have a good night. And I am so glad that this is remote now because I used to drive an hour back home after hearings. Have a good night. Thank you.
It's coming back.
Oh,
no.
no.
Thanks, Carmen. Thanks, Nino.
That'll be the night we all resign.
I'm definitely not going to like it. I can tell you that much. I'll bully the state into extending it.
Yeah, they better. They'll be sorry. Okay, so now we have an enforcement order that we need to consider for NOI 20-11 for 339 Jerusalem Road. Charlotte, can you explain what has happened here?
Yes, so this originally started out as a COC request for the notice of intent for NOI 20-11. We had some concerns about previous vegetation removal in the coastal bank and the 50-foot buffer. So the commission voted to issue an enforcement order to amend that and to put in additional mitigation plantings to replace that. I looked at the near map imagery with Mike and sent it all to Sean as well in 50 emails to kind of, get an idea of what the vegetation was out there during the time that the permit was issued. So with that, Sean and Mike worked together to bring that information into an updated plan. They did submit it by the deadline. We wanted it by March 5th. They submitted it a couple days before. What Sean and Mike can obviously explain their mitigation plan, but you're dealing with two things here. Obviously the enforcement order of whether or not that's been satisfied, if you want to lift it or keep it, and then deciding on what to do with the COC.
I'm sorry, what do you mean by what to do with the COC?
If you want to issue one or not.
Well, it can't be issued until the mitigation is done, correct?
Whatever you guys decide, I think that makes sense. So I don't know if you want to vote on a contingent upon COC, but I think we should probably first go through the enforcement order part and just see if everything is satisfactory.
Right.
All right, Sean.
Mike, if you want to start.
Or Mike, sorry.
It doesn't matter. I could. Do you want me to pull it up on my screen, or would you prefer to pull it up on your screen?
No, you
Go ahead, Sean.
Yeah, you go ahead.
I can toss it up here. Thank you, guys. See if I can get to it. See if it's. Let me know if you see it yet.
Yes, we see it.
Thank you. I can shrink it down a little bit, but I think at least you can kind of see a little bit better if I have it zoomed up. Touch. One of the things that you had asked us to do, originally we were looking at replacing some of the shrubs that seemed to have come out with the addition of the wall that was built. There were some in this area. There's also some other vegetation along the edges, but once we started looking into the near maps, you started to see some other vegetation that was along this slope. It was brushy. So we want us to take a look at that. Prior to any of the installation, there was a little bit of vegetation that was growing in the cracks in the asphalt, but that was an asphalt. It almost felt like a parking lot down underneath there. So certainly, obviously, that's gone because it's underneath the sand. It's buried and gone. So what we intended to do, instead of just attacking this area, which is what we did the last time, if you remember, with some of those similar plantings of bayberry and juniper, we added back more in this area that we're calling the kind of beach plant list that we have here. And it's really a stony beach. You remember there's the culvert and the outlet pipe that drops out into here, and it's very rocky and ledgy all in this area. There is some Phragmites that's growing. There is some other, what I believe to be some sea rocket, some other seaside goldenrod at the very base of this area. There is a little bit of green there now. What we're proposing is to put about 260 more square feet here, about another 90 square feet here of plantings. This was going to mimic anything we think we can get to grow in that stony soil, if you not really soil so much as stony beach area. We are proposing to do some beach grass. Hopefully that will take. The sea rocket will take, and I think the seaside goldenrod will take. So we're hoping to do all of that in this area that was greenish at one point. This area back behind with the hackberry, that's all been planted now per our original design that we did. And then the area that's above this ledge, one of the things that wasn't really obvious with the basic survey was what all this is up here. Really, we mapped out the ledge based on a combination of looking out there on site as well as some aerial photos where this kind of large ledge shelf is, and there are pockets essentially where everything is, all that green was growing out before essentially. And there is some green ground cover there now. What it is right now, this time of year, I'm not sure what it is. We'll see it as it's coming in here in the springtime. But what our intention is to come in and still interplant all the plantings that we're showing here, which is a pretty heavy dose of native forbs. This is all upland. This is all lawn area in this area. There are some shrubs in this area that we leave alone. It's kind of a mix of things, including a little bit of privet. But in this case, we were going to hit all of our native grasses, which is primarily switchgrass, and all of our native forbs to give a little bit of variety. One of the challenges we have up here is because the ledge is so dense and so thick in here. The graphic is green, yes, but this is going to have to be pockets. Planting these because it's really, really a challenge in that area. And so we did about another 250 square foot of planting, kind of covering the area that comes to the lawn edges the way they were before. Any of that area where trees they were kind of shrubby plants and woody plants, and also forbs came out of there. We did add back some woody plant material, some Rosa virginiana, some sweet fern. We think will do well there, as well as some low bush blueberry. We think we'll probably do okay there. We'll see how it does. We do know that, again, there's other vegetation in there right now, and we'll see what that is. It looks like it's primarily forbs and grasses, but we've added a pretty substantial quantity there. But we think it's going to be in small containers just because of how shallow the soil is and how much ledge is there. Most of this is all rock, but I know we had some photos of the site at one point. If you want to share that. Again, this is the areas that were already planted for the previous planting.
Sean, what are the shrubs up in that right in the corner there where the wall hits the outcrop? What are those?
Good bayberry and some common juniper. We've got some common juniper, a couple of them, they're looking pretty tough, a little sparse. We have some common juniper up along the edges over here. So I'm hoping that will take. It's a really tough little isolated area.
Yeah.
But it was a really tough little isolated area before, right? And there's some growing there. So I'm hoping that those will take. So I was thinking bayberry is going to give us our best shot, as well as the common juniper. There is some vegetation all in here, which isn't really illustrated, but that's really tough little area where the pipe comes out. We've got ledge every place in here. It's really like a ledge rock stream that goes down. There's some.
I don't have any other comments.
Questions about it or anything like that.
Charlotte, so this would be the plan to remediate the enforcement order? Is that how to understand about this?
No, good question. So the current enforcement order was to just provide us with a plan. This is kind of what we've done with other similar violations. So if the commission is satisfied with the plan, you can either vote to close it out. I would recommend obviously upon at least the plantings being installed, or you can vote to amend the enforcement order just to kind of make sure that the plantings are all installed, and then you can decide on whether or not you want any monitoring. And then depending on that, I think that would kind of set the stage for whether or not you want to vote to issue a COC, maybe contingent upon at least the plantings being installed, because there is an ongoing condition with the COC that I would recommend. If obviously plantings have to survive at least 3 full growing seasons. So under the COC, I think just basic maintenance might be acceptable, but you may or may not need an active amended enforcement order just in case any of the plantings don't take, and we may or may not have to revise the plan and talk about it. But Those are kind of your choices. So right now, the current enforcement order was just to submit a plan by the deadline, which they did. So you can vote to either close it out, keep it open and amend it, and then go from there with the COC.
Is there any benefit to keeping the enforcement order intact?
I would recommend it, and I know it sounds scary, but it would also give them the coverage to work within the coastal bank and the 50-foot buffer. It would be in lieu of getting a new permit. Technically, for native plantings installed in a resource area, you really should have a permit under the Wetlands Protection Act, but at the very least, I would recommend at least keeping it open, so we can make sure the plantings are installed, and then we can at least make sure that they survive for a specific amount of time. We've done that with other enforcement orders, so it kind of just gives Mike and his team and Sean and their team, an active, oversight with the commission to kind of just monitor those plantings. And then the COC can be a part of more of just like the ongoing maintenance if you were to close that out too.
Sean, any idea when these plants be available?
Hoping they'd be available late April, early May, right? But and somebody drove by a site the other day and saw plants going in. I don't know where they got them, but they were putting them in.
I know which one you're talking about, and it's actually on the agenda unless it's a different one.
So, well, usually it's at late April, early May is when we can count on them. I'd have to double check on some of these species though, Chris, because some of those species may not be available as early, but
Yeah.
as soon as we can get them, as soon as we can have some.
All right.
Further comments? Does anyone wish to make a motion here?
So Charlotte, what would the motion be?
I would assume it's to maintain the.
I would
enforcement order, right?
I would recommend amending the enforcement order to you can choose a set of conditions of when you want to see the plantings go in, for how long you want it monitored, or if you want a report of any kind. And then that would just give Sean and Mike, guidance on how to, well, one, if and when, if they need a deadline to plant everything, or if we just want to keep it so that they can install the plants and then give us any reporting or monitoring updates for a certain amount of time. So you just have to be, as usual, just be very clear with any deadlines in the amended enforcement order. But I think you should issue an amended one just so that they have essentially a permit holder to work in a resource area and in the 50-foot buffer, which is no alteration unless obviously we give a variance, but.
So the motion would be to keep the enforcement order.
To amend it,
accept-
yes.
Amend the order.
Oh, to amend the enforcement order to accept this plan with the condition that planting would be completed by, I don't know, June 15th, June 30th?
Yeah, like this season or something like that, or early season, or however you want to describe it. As soon as the
Can we say June 30th?
Yeah, Mike, does that sound good to you?
Yeah, absolutely. We can get that done by then.
Okay.
Yeah, that's.
Okay. Chris, could
Any
you-
other conditions?
Yeah.
Charlotte, what's the, you said there was a review period or an inspection period?
Well, that's up to you guys. I mean, we've done it for other enforcement orders. I don't know if you want any monitoring or inspection reports, or if you just want it planted by a certain day.
Well, how
So
about if we, how about if we
June
say it's planted by
Okay.
June 30th?
Yep.
And monitored throughout the summer?
Okay.
Maybe through September 30th.
Yeah.
Okay. Do you want a report, or just want to make sure that we just check it, like informally?
Yeah, I'd say an informal check.
Okay.
So that still would mean that they'd have to survive 3 full growing seasons. Is that correct, Charlotte?
Well, maybe I have a question. Like, I think when we close, if we issue COC at that point, can we then set conditions on the growing seasons?
You can only put in ongoing conditions that were issued with the order of conditions. So we do have our template about the plantings have to survive 3 full growing seasons or be replaced. I would recommend putting that similar condition in the EO, just because again, technically you need a permit to work within a resource area. So it really shouldn't be like an ongoing condition. I know we've done that with every project, but it's kind of awkward for the ones that are specifically within the coastal bank. So I think if you put to install all the plantings as shown in the approved plan by June 30th, and then to monitor it for 3 full growing seasons and replace anything that doesn't make it. I think that'll cover you under the COC and under the amended order. And I know that would keep it open for 3 full growing seasons, but at the very least, you know, Mike and Sean and their teams will have just something active to kind of hold them just to make sure that the plantings survive and they don't need to come back to us with any like amended permit or anything like that. You know what I mean? That would just be my recommendation though.
So then the enforcement order and the order of conditions would remain open during that period, or?
I don't know about the COC, but I would definitely recommend the amended EO.
Hmm.
So
do
like,
I-
yeah,
do-
put the
do I need
plantings in.
to- Do I need to
sorry.
recite that again?
Yes, please.
Okay. So I'll make a motion to amend the enforcement order to accept the plan as provided and to have planting done by June 30th, 2024. And with the condition that the plants need to survive for 3 full growing seasons or replaced during that period. Is that covered, Charlotte?
Oh, what
Sure.
about the
And then, yeah, you
September
didn't
30th?
No, we're just gonna do the 3 years and not do the September 3rd.
Yeah, and you just wanted more like an informal monitoring thing. You didn't want like any formal reports, right?
Correct.
Cool. Okay.
You have a
Is there a
second?
second?
I'll second. Kathy Berrigan,
Kathy Berrigan, aye.
Sanji Fernando,
Sanjay Fernando, aye.
Chris McFarland,
Chris McFarland, aye.
Chris McIntyre,
Chris McIntyre, aye.
Tom Bell, aye. That motion passes 5-0-0.
Thank you.
Thank
you
you.
very much. One quick question. Once the plantings are in, Charlotte, I notify you. You come out and inspect.
Mm-hmm.
Do we do annually every year for 3 years, or how do we do the 3-year period correctly?
I think we can just kind of keep this like informal and, you know, I think if you guys, I would just recommend if you guys, you know, either want to call me or email me, just kind of like update me each year, how the plantings are doing. And if you had to replace anything, I think that's fine. Like just something, you know, for the record. And then it doesn't have to be like a fully developed report. It can just be like, hey, everything looks good, or we replaced 3 shrubs or something, and kind of just go from there. And obviously I'm welcome to, I'm happy to go out any point in the 3 full growing season monitoring period to look at it if you guys ever have any questions. So, but yeah, for the June 30th, I'll definitely go out to verify that and make sure everything's done.
All right, we'll let you know as soon as we have it in.
It'll be interesting, so that's good.
Yeah.
All right, thank you all. Appreciate it.
Thank
And
you.
then, did you guys want to do any sort of contingent upon COC to close it once the plantings are installed? Or do you think we should continue the COC until June and then put it back on the agenda?
Let's put it back on the agenda in June.
Okay. Mike, are you okay with that?
Sure.
Okay. So we'll just, I guess we'll just, and for the record, we'll just continue the COC until I don't have the June dates, unfortunately. Sorry.
Let's just say June 30th.
Yeah, June 30th. Yeah.
We'll get them in as early in the season as is practical, and that way we'll.
Yeah. Yeah, and we'll put it back on the agenda when you guys are all set.
Yeah, just let us know.
Great, thank you.
Awesome.
Thank you.
All right. Thank you, guys.
Thank
Have a
you.
good night.
You too. Thanks.
So next we have a certificate of compliance for NOI 1993. DEP file number 13-343 for 475 Jerusalem Road.
Yes. Give me 1 second because there are people in the audience for this one.
So what's the story, Charlotte, on this?
Yeah.
On this.
Yeah, these are fun. So long story short, this is obviously coming up because of a housing sale. So this is a 1993 notice of intent. It did not have an internal file number because we didn't get those start those until 1995.
Okay.
So this permit was issued in 93. There was a partial COC that was submitted in 1994, probably to confirm the work that had been done so far. I have no record of a partial COC ever being issued. I checked the minutes, I checked the files, we couldn't find anything. So in 1995, they'd applied for an amended order and they did get it, but unfortunately, the big caveat to this COC request is I do not have the approved amended plans. So as you guys can tell, it's pretty hard to evaluate compliance if I don't have it. We have a page from the amended NOI that does show a markup of the plan with the amended wall, so you can see that the plan had changed between the original plan and this amended NOI. I just don't have the officially stamped amended plan. The original engineer is actually still around, Carlos Pena from Foth Engineering. So he checked his records. Unfortunately, they couldn't find it in their paper records, which at some point were thrown out when the company transitioned. But he did come out and assist us with looking at the as-built conditions because we only had a partial as-built. So we wanted to just make sure that the as-built was kind of completed with the all as-built conditions from the amended order. Using the amended page plan that was submitted with the NOI, it appears that the wall, and I can pull up the as-built, it appears that the wall, for the most part, the walls around the rear of the property, it seems like they kind of follow the approved plan. There are a couple deviations that Carlos had noted. So this is the as-built. I'll go to the amended plan page that I'm pretty sure is a version of the amended approved plan. So there were walls, a wooden deck that were all proposed between 1993 and 1995. This wall here, per the amended plan page, was only supposed to be 20 feet. So it's 6 feet longer. And then this one is a couple feet shorter. It was about like 33 plus or minus feet long. So it's actually shorter. And it kind of came in a little bit. It was supposed to kind of be extended all the way out to here, but it only kind of comes out to here. The elevations are, for the most part, the same. The wooden deck seems to be built per plan with the elevations, for the most part, the same. So that was really the only two deviations that Carlos and I had noted when we went to the site to kind of look at the final as-built conditions. So I can pull up the amended plan if you guys are curious, but again, I don't have the official amended plan in the record, or I couldn't find it anywhere. So I was just using this page from the amended NOI submission, just kind of assuming this is somewhat of a version of the approved plan that was issued. Sorry, one sec. Yeah, like this is all I had. So like it's not the stamped version, but you can see that it was supposed to go all the way out, and that's not what it did. And then it was supposed to be 20 feet, so it was just 26 feet. But other than that, the elevation spot checks are pretty much the same. Wooden deck was built the same way. Steps are a little different, but for the most part, didn't really see anything else. And then this, for if a COC is issued, the conditions I would suggest, it's slightly different from our current template, so please bear with me. Condition 29, that pesticides and herbicides shall not be used within 100 feet of any wetland resource area. Condition 30, that there shall be no underground storage of fuel or hazardous substances in the resource area or buffer zone. And then this one I'm not sure of, but I just wrote it down in case you guys want it. After initial loam seed and fertilizer has been applied, only low nitrogen fertilizer should be used in maintenance. This is before we matched it with our regs to not use fertilizer at all. So I don't know if you want me to not put that one in, but that was condition 29, 30, and 31.
Can you go back to the as-built again?
Yeah.
What is that, the gravel symbol up in the upper right? What is that showing?
Upper right, gravel. Oh, this was existing. What does it say? Existing stone and recurve wall. That was on the amended plan, and I think that was part of the original plan. So this wasn't a part of the amended. This was a part of the original plan.
Okay.
Yeah, it's weird.
So this is kind of tricky. We don't have the original documents.
Again, I have an amended plan page, but I don't have the
and-
final stamped version that's noted in the amended order, so it's difficult for compliance.
Yeah, and you know, the sort of minor, that grass patio has some minor changes. That seems to be the most significant difference. Is that right, Charlotte?
Yeah, so this is 6 feet longer, but this is a few feet shorter. And then the elevation spot checks, basically plus or minus, are pretty much the same as the proposed.
Yeah, so.
And all this was done in around 94, 95, like
Yep,
work was completed, okay.
probably 95, 96, yeah, because the permit was issued, I believe, June or July of 1995, so it's probably done shortly afterwards, because they'd applied for like partial COC, and then I think they decided to make the walls longer, so then they applied for an amended order. Yeah, just unfortunate that, you know, we tried looking for it, but none of us could find the
So I don't
amended
see,
approved plans.
I don't see any basis to deny a COC here. I mean, we don't have enough, we don't have enough information to either approve it or deny it, but it would be a burden on the homeowner to deny it.
Yeah, I was gonna say, this is the closest update of the
Yeah.
plan that I had, and
So,
that's what we
yeah.
were using in the
So
field.
Unless anybody has any further comments or questions, then.
Did you go back to that plan, Charlotte? Sorry.
Yeah, so I've labeled it as like amended plan page, no date, doesn't have a stamp, but it was the page that was within the amended notice of intent submission in the file, but that's the only thing we could find. And Carlos checked his records from the 90s and he couldn't find it either.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah, we definitely looked for it though, because I was like, I kind of need that. It's a little important.
Yeah. So unless there's an objection, I move that we issue a certificate of compliance for NOI 1993 DEP.
Yeah,
file-
DEP, yep.
File number 13-343 for 475 Jerusalem Road. Do we have a second?
Do you want the ongoing conditions of
Yeah.
the no pesticides, herbicides, and the no underground storage of fuel? I just wasn't sure if you wanted
Yes.
the ongoing condition about 31 about low nitrogen
Yeah, yeah.
fertilizers.
Yeah.
Yes? Okay,
Yeah.
I was gonna say that conflicts with
Yeah.
our regs, but
Yeah.
okay.
Yes, at those conditions.
Okay.
So did I have a second? I'm sorry.
Second.
Okay, Kathy Berrigan,
Kathy Berrigan, aye.
Sanjay Fernando,
Sandra Pennino, aye.
Chris McFarland,
Chris McFarland, aye.
Chris McIntyre,
Chris McDare, aye.
Tom Bell, aye. That motion passes 5-0-0.
All right. Thank you, Bob.
Okay, well, that's why we have a time limit on these now, right?
I'll try my best.
So we don't find these Egyptian mummies popping out of the ground and have to make some judgment about it.
Yeah.
I'm looking at that property on Near Map and it looks like, I don't know if it's natural or not, but it's like they made like an alley down to the
Yeah.
water.
Yeah, I was looking at that too.
Yeah.
Well, it's not actually an alley. It's I think that that those large stones they put down there, they probably long gone. That's a pretty rough little bit of coast. I know.
Yeah.
I'm in and out of there with my little boat all the time. So
Mhm.
probably anything below that cement wall that's parallel to the coast is probably all pretty natural now.
Mhm.
The rest of it is cemented in there. Okay, so I think we're getting down to the end here.
Yep, I got one more COC and I'll try to make it very quick.
Yeah, so we're going to resume consideration of the certificate of compliance for NOI 18-1, stormwater permit 18-1 for 811 to 819 Jerusalem Road. It's been continued from February 1st.
So there were just a couple things that we had to finish first that the commission wanted to see. the roof drain leaders just had to be all connected. There was a slight deviation that I previously explained. We're supposed to have overflows here, but they're all just piped into the ground around a trench. So, but everything has been connected now, and the as-built was updated to reflect that. And then the other thing that we wanted was more plantings in this area. They had originally planted 9 inkberry bushes, and we didn't think that was sufficient for a 300 square foot planting mitigation. So I worked with the applicant and their contractor to come up with a, heftier planting. And so they, in addition to the 9 inkberries, they planted 18 more plants, so 3 times the size of the original. 9 winterberry, 3 service bayberry, 6 northern bayberry, and then the 9 inkberries that are already there. In addition to that, I recommended a conservation seed mix to be installed in between all the plantings. That can't be done immediately right now because of obviously germination issues, but they have confirmed that they will be putting it in hopefully either the next couple weeks or by late March, depending on the weather. But in the meantime, we have temporarily stabilized this area in between all the plantings with specialty erosion control straw. So if you guys are comfortable with all those updates and satisfied with the planting mitigation area, I would recommend maybe a contingent upon COC where I can, you guys can vote on it and I'll issue it once I see germination of the seed mix on the site. And then I would recommend obviously the condition 40 about no pesticides, herbicides, et cetera. And then number 41, that the plantings all have to survive 3 full growing seasons or be replaced.
And Charlotte, the plantings were put in already,
So they put in 9 inkberry bushes, but in our evaluation of the COC, we didn't think that was fully sufficient because the approved plan called for 300 square foot planting area. So they went from 9 to 27, and then in between all the shrubs, I recommended a native seed mix to kind of fill in the gaps.
or no, I think it's very big, the plants are already in the ground, the 27
Yes,
now?
I'm sorry. Yes. So those
Oh.
actually were, so I don't know if Sean was referencing this property, but we were able to find 18 shrubs and put them all in addition to the 9 that are already in there. But yeah, the seed mix just isn't able to be installed right now, just because it needs to germinate with warmer weather. But right now there is specialty erosion control straw around all the shrubs just to kind of stabilize the area for now.
Can you go back to can we see the rest of the plan?
Yeah. You mean that this is the revised as-built? And I'm sorry, the as-built was revised to reflect this, and the long-term operation and maintenance plan was recorded. So at least for the stormwater, we have that now.
Wasn't the air conditioner units moved in the original plan?
We had a special condition to not put them in the 50-foot buffer, so they were not installed. So they did comply with that condition by not building this little patio and not putting in these.
Oh, okay, so not installed, it says, okay.
Yes, I'm
okay.
sorry. Yeah, so Carmen had tried to reflect in the as-built, what the as-built versus the approved design was.
Yeah.
So yeah, in red is the outline of the as-built building, but then this walkway was not built and the AC units were not installed here.
Okay, thank you.
Yep. Yeah, sorry, that was a special condition that we had said, other than the stormwater management system, we didn't want anything else in the 50-foot buffer.
Mm-hmm.
Further comments? Okay,
I think we can vote on it and let Charlotte issue once the seed germinates.
yeah, I agree. Want to make a motion there, Chris?
Sure, I'll make a motion to issue a certificate. This is a certificate of compliance, right?
Yes.
What's the address here?
811 to 819 Jerusalem Road.
Thank you. With the conditions 31, 30, what are they, Charlotte?
40 and 41, yeah.
No, 40 and 41 now. Yeah.
Do we have a second? Second. Kathy Berrigan,
Kathy Berrigan, aye.
Sanji Fernando,
Sanjay Fernando, aye.
Chris McFarland,
Chris McFarland, aye.
Chris McIntyre,
Chris McIntyre, aye.
Tom Bell, aye. That motion passes 500.
Do we do a separate for the stormwater COC or do we kind of just combine it? I don't know.
Well, let's combine it.
Okay. Yeah, for the NOI and stormwater permit. Yeah. Okay.
Thank you.
All right. Thank you, Bill. Oh, you're muted.
That's all right. We heard you.
Yeah, he's good. Yeah. Thank you.
Okay, so Charlotte, what can you tell us about? That's it too, right?
Yes.
Okay, so construction updates.
Yep. So 80 North Main Street, I'm sure you guys have seen the house going up. I will be reaching out to the contractor just to kind of do a check on erosion controls because I drive by the site a lot and I'm like, I really need to go there. So I'm going to be walking that site probably next week. And then 1 Pleasant Street, the stormwater systems are actively being installed. I have been out there a couple times for each system. The contractor's good about contacting me for that. They've been inspected by the engineer. You know, it's been a wet, you know, whatever. So there was water in the areas, but it seemed like it was more from the rain. But they are installing what it seems to be everything per plan right now because they have a storm scepter. They're putting in catch basins. They're putting in infiltration. So they're digging all the trenches and connecting everything. And yeah, so that's actively going on. I'm going to the site tomorrow to look at the second system that's further down on the property. And then 249 Jerusalem Road.
Wait, hold it.
Sorry. Yep.
So there's a pipe, right? Does it run through their site or is it outside their site? The pipe that picks up I don't know, there's some kind of run, right?
Yeah, so the subsurface system is connected to a stormwater scepter system, which is connected to catch basins, which is connected to other catch basins and connected to another area that eventually connects to the catch basins in the existing parking lot. And then there's another subsurface system that's connected to the building that's capturing the runoff from the building. And then the other system is capturing the runoff from the parking lot. That's why it has the storm scepter for the pre-treatment.
Right, but I'm actually referring not to their system.
Oh.
But to the if you go to the other side of that vacant property that's there that has been in front of us, and there's a stream on the other side that goes.
That's called James Brook, I believe.
Yep.
James Brook. So
Yeah.
James Brook goes into a pipe, right?
A culvert.
Yes. Comes
And
out. It comes out at some point.
A big box culvert, and it runs
Mhm.
runs all the way underneath downtown.
Right.
Yep.
So is that on their I think that's on their property, correct?
I can double check the plans. You want me to pull them up real quick?
No, I just want you to be aware of the fact that it's there because it could, it's one of the big problems with construction is you run into things that you didn't know were there or you forgot that they were there and stuff like that. So that, because I think if I remember correctly, that goes all the way under town, like
that's right.
under down, and it's big,
Yeah,
right?
it's
like,
huge.
That's a 6-foot box culvert. This
Yeah.
was put in after a flood, I believe in the 60s, that flooded
Yeah.
all of downtown. Had a massive rainstorm. James Brook overflowed because the existing culvert was way too small, and so they
Right.
had to put in a whole new one. And then recently, it seems to me DPW had to somehow figure out where this thing went. It might have had something to do with building 1 Pleasant. I think it did. And so it was a real issue just to figure out where the damn thing went.
Yeah, so I
Anyway.
think, Chris, this might be what you're talking about. It looks like it's just outside the property border, but yeah, it looks like it is right here. But at least their drainage system is connecting to an existing drain hole here, which is just on the other side in this parking lot area. But yeah, they have a system here that's catching the runoff from the parking lot, and then it's going into the storm scepter and then into the respective catch basins. And then it's also going into here, which is connecting to here. And then this system, which is I'm looking at tomorrow, this is the one that's connected to the building that's kind of piped all around and it's catching the runoff here. And then there's other catch basins that are being proposed here and here, but it doesn't look like it's connected directly to this, which looks like the head wall.
Oh, is that,
of the
is
box.
that the one you were referring to, Chris?
Yeah, I think that's what, yeah.
That is.
No,
That's not
no,
technical. That is an internet.
I think the one I was referring to is all the way. I don't know exactly. If you, wait,
On the
no,
left.
no, you have to zoom out a little bit.
Mm,
Can you zoom
Are you-
out?
yeah. Oh, it's kind
So
of hard to read. Yeah.
it's all the way like over
To the
here
left.
somewhere.
Oh,
That's right.
Because it actually goes under the road over here.
okay. The one near Smith Place. Okay.
And then I think it's probably is this one right here.
Okay.
But I don't know exactly. But
Okay.
anyway, I just wanted to call it to your attention that
No, thank you. I'll keep an eye on it. When I go to the site tomorrow morning, maybe I'll like walk this area a little bit.
you might also want to just, I mean, you might want to just go back to the plans and make sure that their connections are what
Yeah.
what was approved.
Yeah. Yeah, I do definitely see this and I see this. I haven't seen all the catch basins obviously come up yet because they have to obviously regrade the parking lot area once they bury all the systems, but
Yeah.
yeah, he's good about calling me, so I'll make sure I can see all the connection points. But at least right now, I do definitely see this. So they are connecting this to this right now. They haven't put in all the pipes yet. I did clarify with him because he thought that it looks like this does kind of connect to this, but it doesn't connect. Like this system does not connect to the building. So there was, we did confirm that with the engineer. That's not what the plan shows. You definitely see a connection here, but yeah, so I said this system is specifically for the building, which will eventually drain to here as well with overflow, but this is for the parking lot. So that's why there's two separate systems, and that's why this one has a storm scepter.
Yeah.
See, yeah.
See this right here? Sorry, right
Yep,
there.
yep. Yeah.
So I think that's the pipe that comes across this lot.
Okay.
And then the swale that's, comes down Pleasant Street, that comes to there, and then the whole
Okay.
thing goes that way. But
Yeah.
I for some reason I thought it actually went on their property, so. But maybe not.
I'll look at it though. I can just say, hey, I kind of want to look at this and make sure, like, but they're definitely not doing any work in this parking lot. So, well, they
Right.
are, but
Yeah,
obviously it's, like they're not doing any work in here, obviously. Like they're only working in here within their fenced area.
Uh-huh.
But yeah, I can take a look at this because I haven't physically seen this. I don't know where it is on the site or on the abutting site, but I can look at it because I've never seen it before. So I kind of want to know what it looks like for reference. But yeah, I think this is definitely, I mean, it has a head wall structure here. So this is definitely where, the culvert is.
Yeah.
Well,
Okay.
the culvert for Smith Place or for James Brook is right where it intersects the west side of Smith Place.
Oh, so over here.
Yeah, it's across the street from.
Oh, okay. Isn't
Yeah.
this it? Doesn't it like go like this?
That
No.
might.
That
no, I
looks
don't
like
think-
that's
I
it?
don't think that's it, but
No?
No, that's not it.
approximately where your cursor is where that
Okay.
that box culvert starts.
Okay, well, I'll look at it. Yeah, but I haven't seen any of the catch basins, anything going in yet. We're still just looking at the systems. And then last
Excuse
one.
me. I'm
Oh,
sorry, excuse me, just a quick question. 80 North Main Street, is that the intersects where the end of Sawyer intersects and the properties on Little Harbor? It's a massive structure. Is that-
Yeah, it's the big home. It's like
Okay.
the 8,000 square foot home.
Got it. Okay. So I thought, just want to make sure.
Yeah, with a tall watchtower.
Looks like
Not
a
our
hotel.
jurisdiction, but.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, thank
Thank
you, Kathy. And then last but not least, 249 Jerusalem. This was the replacement of a garage and an addition. The site looks a little messy, so I would like to kind of go over there, but just also wanted to give you the heads up that National Grid had to cut down a tree close to the power lines. So they did notify me in writing. So I did document that because when you have open orders of condition, I want to make sure that obviously the applicant didn't cut down any of those trees because the applicant's not exempt without further permission, but National Grid is to protect the power lines if they notify me in writing. So they did. But yeah, that project it's on a tight site. It's on, just above a slope that goes down into the salt marsh. So, I mean, there's a lot of trucks there right now. So I kind of want to go and take a look at it. I just haven't had any breather space. That's why I kind of put these on my list to just look at maybe tomorrow or next week. And then for other updates, I'll go backwards actually. It is grant season. I'll admit I do not have any time to really consider grants right now. I am waiting on that UCF challenge grant that we kind of collaborate with Open Space on to plant more trees in town. I haven't heard from them yet, but any day now at this point, we should hear an update. You guys kind of already know about this, but April 1st is now the new deadline to submit any comments for the Wetlands Protection Act revisions for land subject to coastal storm flowage. They're trying to create performance standards and they're structuring it similar to riverfront area in terms of new development versus redevelopment. They've broken up the land subject to coastal storm flowage into several zones. And one of the big changes is the standards will forbid new construction in the velocity zone of the floodplain. And then redevelopment has to meet very specific standards. So the deadline was originally March 1st, but basically a bunch of people said we need more time. This is a massive change. Some of the stuff may seem great on paper, but resource wise, it could be an encumbrance. So they're definitely hashing that out. And then a lot of the changes in the stormwater handbook have finally come back. I think I told you guys about them 2 years ago. They are still revising it, but there are also a lot of technical concerns with the amount of information that they are going to require with these changes. So that's another reason why people ask for more time to provide sufficient comments. I do encourage you guys, I'm going to try to submit comments because I want to be involved in this, but if you guys have any free time, I would definitely recommend looking at it. I can send you all the links. I think I sent it before, but I'm happy to resend. It's just kind of cool to see that in action with the Wetlands Protection Act. So we'll see how it goes. And then tree violations. Obviously, this is clogging up a lot of our agendas. And in the limited free time I don't have, I will be drafting a letter to send to all the local companies and just lay out very clearly what the regulations are, what our bylaw says, what our, again, specifics are. And I just want to make sure that they get that in writing. So if there's any issues with specific companies consistently, we can tell them that they were obviously very well notified. And I'm not going to name names, but you might know the ones I'm talking about that are coming up.
So
And then enforce.
I would suggest that you send it by certified mail.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. It will be sent by certified mail. Yeah. And then enforcement procedures. This is kind of just a general thing. I just wanted to bring up that, again, I'm trying to be consistent with how we enforce stuff in town, and I'm open to suggestions on how to fix it. But obviously our standard quo is bring them in for a show cause. If they're actively doing something, I will place a cease and desist. If they have already cut a tree down or something, I'll put a cease and desist on additional activity. If they obviously don't comply with that and don't comply with showing up to a show cause, we can issue an enforcement order. And if obviously they don't comply with that, we can issue fines. But I didn't know if you guys wanted to have any sort of maybe recommended loose process for us of if someone cuts down a tree here, we tell them to put back 4 or 3 or whatever. So it's mostly just a comment to you guys of if you guys have any suggestions on these enforcement hearings. But you're starting to see some patterns, obviously, with tree removal, with landscaping changes. I'm getting notified about, pool discharging. So a lot of these enforcement things are kind of similar in nature. So I'm open to suggestions on how to.
I don't think there's a one size fits all for.
I know, that's why, yeah.
For a tree cutting thing, there may not be any room to.
Right.
To, if we insisted on 4 to 1 or something, there might not be room to put 4 trees.
Yeah.
I don't think we can really make it that formulaic.
Mm-hmm.
What happened with the tree fund or the conservation fund?
Oh yeah, I'm trying to work with Dee from Open Space. What's her last name, Chris? Deirdre. I feel bad I'm forgetting her last name, but anyway, I'm trying to work with her on getting updates on that. Basically, we haven't set up a tree account yet to receive money. There's still some money that might potentially be in there for other stuff, but unfortunately, I don't have anything yet, but we're definitely on it. It's probably just going to take a while to get the gears to all move and to get everybody to agree on where to put any money if people donate. But yeah, I mean, as you guys know, DPW spends their tree budget on cutting trees and pruning trees. They don't really plant any trees in town. And they don't even like their own list in the street tree policy. Like they don't want a bunch of flowering and fruiting trees that make a mess. They don't want trees with a lot of.
What about our own account then, like a
Yeah.
conservation fund or something?
We could do that. That could be something that, you know, and then at least we can create it. And then if DPW wants to use it as the tree bank, we can kind of just, but yeah, maybe we could pave the way. That's a good suggestion, and make our own. So if there's no room to plant trees for enforcement orders, maybe we could require them to pay up. I don't know. It's up to you guys. I'm open to that, just because it's moving very slowly with DPW.
Sounds like a good slush fund for us.
Yeah. And then, yeah, so the last thing about the enforcement stuff is, as you guys heard from my last couple updates, I've been sitting on issuing enforcement orders only because our agendas are getting very long. And I will try to space these out as best I can, but I currently have at least 6 or 7 violation letters and enforcement letters to send, mostly all for tree stuff. And definitely the enforcement orders will be sent to people who did not listen to our decisions with the RDAs. And it's one of those things of like, this one had a lot of people calling into this meeting, so I did not issue them to add this to the hearing. So I will be putting them on in probably April. But the thing is, you guys have to ratify an enforcement order at the next meeting. So that's another reason why I'm kind of trying to like space them out. But I do want to be time sensitive as well. Obviously, now that we know the 2-year statute of limitations, I'm definitely not going to wait that long, but I want to get them on the books for you guys. I'm just letting you know that I will be spacing them out mostly to kind of balance the agenda. The only thing you would have to do though is to ratify it. So it would take 2 seconds, but in case the neighbors or the person who the enforcement order was issued against shows up, that may or may not turn into whether or not the commission wants to have a hearing or just to ratify it. So that's another reason why I'm being cautious with issuing enforcement orders when we have heavy agendas. So they'll happen. Just want to let you guys know that that's what's going on.
Okay, sounds like we're at the end of our list.
Yeah, I had some 48-hour issues for you guys, but I don't know if you want me to hear them.
Oh, yeah.
Or if you want to hear them from me, excuse me.
Yeah. Better tell us.
So they briefly mentioned this during the Deer Hill hearing. I was going to leave it out, but now that they brought it up, I do want to point out to you guys that Chris McIntyre, sorry, this might be in relation to, remember you had asked a question about whether or not Woodard and Karan was going to be renewed with maintaining the rain gardens in town?
Well, yeah, maintaining the whole water department, really.
Yeah.
Managing the water department, yeah.
So I had reached out to DPW, obviously never heard back from them. And then a couple weeks later, I got a call from the same neighbors of Deer Hill School saying that the town went in to what looks like some overgrown rain garden areas with excavators, cut down trees, cleared out all the vegetation in those basins within less than 5 feet of wetlands.
Wow.
Yeah.
Oh, our wonderful DPW guys.
So I have tried my best. And again, I'm not trying to vent here. I'm just trying to state of the facts. I have tried my best to consistently work with DPW saying, hey, you know, it's not that you can't do it, but you do need to notify me when you're doing maintenance activities to protect the existing utilities. That is an exempt activity. But this, I think, crosses a line. So it's one thing if they're cutting down trees, they cut down trees along North Main Street, and I called them about it. I said, hey, these are right near wetlands. Was this you guys? They said, yes, I'm sorry. We should have notified you. But I hear that every single time. So I don't know if this is intentional. I'm not going to draw inferences here. I'm just sticking to the facts. But I think this does cross a line. I have not yet looked up the permit history of when those rain gardens were created. But either way, I'm sure it was a long time ago, and there probably is not an active permit. And I'm frankly concerned. So, I mean, I don't know how you guys want me to handle this, but I'm obviously happy. I have not spoken to Brian about this yet because there's been a bunch of other things that I prioritized first, but kind of wanted to get a read on this since obviously this is the town doing this. And, you know, I will do whatever you guys think is best. I'm happy to look into the permitting history and I can bring that back to you guys. But I think at the very least, we should be making DPW aware of our concerns, working with an excavator so close to a wetland. I don't care if it had good intentions to clear out and maintain a rain garden, but I'm sorry, like that, that's just.
I think we need to kind of like bring to light the offenses that DPW has done over the last year or two, including Sandy Beach stuff.
Yeah.
And elevated, because I don't think addressing it directly with them will work. I think it needs to be something that needs to be brought more to like the select board or something like that. And I think that's the way it has to be addressed.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah. The Sandy Beach thing, I know I've spoken to some of you yet. I haven't made my way down to the full list of commissioners, but that is another thing that is an issue where it relates to the Sandy Beach permit we recently issued. And I kind of want to talk about this more privately offline and then also bring it back when needed. But it involves what Chris said, the concept of DPW doing what they're doing. And obviously we know they're not doing this for fun. They're doing this for operation and safety perspective, but I'm sorry, they're in a lot of sensitive wetland resource areas. And, you know, it's just not giving me a heads up. And it's, you know, I kind of got hint of that when I started this job. It's obviously just continuing and there seems to be no end to it. And times where I've brought it up, let's just say that has not been met with much.
You're not cooperating.
Exactly. Let's just say that they don't like when I tell them how to do their job. But yeah, I'm open to, you know, maybe, I don't know if you guys want me to talk to council first and maybe I can kind of bring up the whole issue. Or if you want me to do it piece by piece with just the rain gardens.
Charlotte, this sounds like a good thing that we should talk to council about.
Yeah.
How a commission can rein in a town department when they're in violation of the Wetlands Protection Act.
Yeah. I think so, because again, if any other person.
Case law on this.
Would it make
Let's find out what it is. And I think it's best then to, if it does turn out that we have the law is really on our side, that we need to take action.
Yeah.
Have we brought this up to the select board yet, though? I think Chris may.
Well, let's just say I brought it up to town manager for certain projects that I don't want to discuss right now because I don't want to, you know, get in trouble for anything, but let's just say that has not been met with cooperation at all either. Not about the rain gardens, I'm talking about other projects. But I have in some cases tried to bring that to people's attention and let's just say it's not received well.
Let's find out what town council says and
go from there.
Proceed from there, yeah.
Okay. Yeah, and I'm trying to be delicate here because obviously you guys know my role. I am employed by the town. I am the liaison of the commission. I am the enforcement side of the Conservation Commission, the Wetlands Protection Act. And so I'm just trying to do my job here, but it does put me in an awkward position because I work with these people every single day.
So I think that we need to review these violations and get legal counsel, and we should be the ones that actually confront the town and not force you to do it.
So Charlotte, why don't you pull together like a summary of like the actions that, you know, we have in the last like, well, at least
less than 2 years. Yeah,
sure.
Yeah.
And then we could even like put together like a letter to give to, or we can talk to council ourselves, and if we need to go to the select board, we can do that so that you're not stuck in the middle of it.
Okay. Yeah, I'm happy to look at that because I think it definitely relates to the whole thing. And, you know, again, DPW, they are definitely exempt in a lot of ways to maintain public utilities, but that doesn't make them immune to the Wetlands Protection Act. So, yeah. Anyway, so that was mostly the big concern. The two other quick ones are, I received a legal letter from, well, I was copied on it, but basically what's happening on Whitehead Road is someone from 62 Whitehead Road, the owners of 62 Whitehead, are supposedly cutting a path to the water on 35 Whitehead Road's property. So obviously private property encroachment is not my jurisdiction, but I asked the lawyer who sent the letter, do you have any recent proof? Like, do you have photos? Do you have pictures? Like, can I see it? I can't see it on aerial imagery right now. They said they would get that information to me, but they did CC me on the letter and obviously say it is a violation of the Wetlands Protection Act to blah, blah, blah. So I am aware of it. I know the person who manages 35 Whitehead property, so I'm probably going to reach out to her at some point just to ask for some more information. but obviously I will not be enforcing encroachment on a private property. It's just I can send at least a warning letter to them if I don't have any proof. So that's what I'm gonna do if I don't have any proof. If I do have proof, obviously I'll go through my enforcement stuff. But that's one thing. And then I was just notified today, this is an old stormwater permit project that we issued like a year and a half ago. So it's not really old, relatively new, but Black Rock Road, 46 Black Rock Road. This was the guy who wanted to do a garage, and there was a neighbor who was very upset, and we got into a peer review, and we had to have a peer reviewer. You know, yeah, so apparently what he did is he recently graded his driveway, not in the area shown on the plans to be regraded. He raised it about anywhere from half a foot to a foot, and is starting to pitch the water onto her property. She's obviously dealing with, of course, legal stuff on her end, but I told her again, I mean, it's not on the plan, so at least I can talk to the owner, but obviously I'm not going to get involved in any sort of private property damage. So again, I can just talk to the owner and say, hey, this is a deviation from the approved plan. Can we talk about it? Let's, you know, even modify the plans, or just get, just make sure that there's no changes to the approved plans. So yeah, she came in today and she was very upset. So I'm
Who's the
trying to.
engineer?
The engineer was a company, was Webby Engineering. It's like a company we don't see that often, but the peer reviewer who we required to do the inspections for stormwater is Pat Brennan from PG Consulting. He used to be a part of Amory before he split off. So, I was actually meaning to check in on the site because the owner was very active with notifying me what he was doing, and then it's just been silent for 6 months. So I assumed there was some sort of legal stuff going on, but then today I was just notified about him raising his driveway a little bit and pitching the water towards her property. So, yep.
Okay.
Yep. So that's it. Those are the 48-hour issues. Sorry.
All right. Motion to adjourn.
Second.
All in favor?
Hi.
Okay.
Good
Thank
night.
you.
Thanks.
Thank you, Charlotte.
Guys.
Thank you,
And
Charlotte.
Kathy, sure you don't want to? Nope, I think we're good. Never mind. We'll chat tomorrow, Kathy.
Okay.
All right.
All right.
Thanks.
Thank